Hey, let her do whatever what's the worst she can do? Light a fire in a daycare center?
I'm going to commit arson when I escape from these mortal chains.
Don't send your kids to Daycare 1. Meet the monsters. By user, it's not gay, it's science.
Science rules.
Which is a reference to the channel as a whole, as well as Chris Trucker. So glad to see a new face in here. I said before that I should buy stock in Reddit because I bring so many people to the platform, but seeing how Reddit stock is gone, yeah, glad I didn't do that. Anyway, thanks for being here, for real. That's a primo username, I gotta say. Hi, ReddX, longtime fan, first-time poster, and I need to get this off my chest. For the past decade, I've worked at a daycare center for children younger than 5 years of age. There was a bit of unexpected time off when the plague happened, but other than that, I've been working full-time for many years. The work is satisfying, and while it can get a little gross or weird, the kids have an excuse because they are still figuring things out.
Down by the shores of the hanky-panky where the bullfrogs leap from bank to banky.
Kids are very often gross and or weird, yes. And some of those kids turn into people that, I don't know, invariably never figure things out. And that is how we end up with, it's the gross and weird adults that I really have a problem with. Some have been parents, others have been legitimate Legbeards. There was also a neckbeard or two in there as well, but we'll see how things are received before I expound on all that. We'll focus on one for now, and we'll start from the beginning, as best I can recall. So we're traveling back, you're saying, like a decade into the past. That's what I'm going to presume.
We're going back in time.
The beginning of what? It's fine, please continue. Her name was Tumblrina, and she had a problem with everything.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always!
Yes, 2010s, indeed, I think it is. Tumblrinas ruled the landscape. Decade and a half down the road, the internet seems to belong to chud posters, so I don't know where we'll be in another decade. Things are going very interestingly. But please, tell me more. OP says, I don't just mean her mental health or personal hygiene being a problem with everything, which were both deplorable, of course. I mean, she'd often get into the typical Tumblr arguments, but like, in real life, yeah, that's a sign of being terminally online. Tumblrina refused to understand that the issues she crusaded for or against online simply didn't matter all that much in real life. People are not confrontational in general in real life. Maybe that's changing with the rise of, like, I'm the main character syndrome. But as far as I can recall, as my experiences go, yeah, people don't give a shit generally. If it's not about them, they don't care. She would rage at parents that told their sons not to play with Barbies. She'd point out microaggressions, either real or perceived, though mostly just perceived. That's what a microaggression is. Nobody knows they're doing it, but you're like personally offended. Who cares? You're allowed to be offended. It doesn't have to change anything. Then at some point along the way, we felt compelled to point them out, which would be okay, you know, now I'm knowledgeable of that, but also you're expecting people to change on your behalf, which is just, it's something that doesn't happen in real life, okay?
Yes! Does it work that way?
Tumblrina once lectured a black mother about, man, about her internalized racism and reassured her that she was definitely just as capable as a white mother. Race wasn't even part of the conversation until that point. Oof. I don't know why you have to go there. I guess that's just how she perceives the world, in literal black and white. The mom was simply commenting on how exhausting it is to be a mom. The bigotry of low expectation isn't something that I want to go into, but there you go. Yeah, okay, we have that now. Painting a hell of a picture. That's the last time I ever try and engage that lady in casual conversation. She dragged race into it, in a negative light at that. Ugh. She knows she's as capable as a white mother, okay? Christ. Needless to say, Tumblrina was unhinged. I'm getting those vibes, yeah. The stories I have to share could fill a novel, and they just might, but let's start before I truly knew her. Hey, can we get the publishing rights to that? Would that be okay? I don't want to buy a novel before it's written, but I like what I'm seeing so far. 2 paragraphs in, I'm sold. Anyway, we'll start the series on the day that she got hired. On a Friday, my boss told me that we'd have some extra hands to help out on the coming Monday. Wrangling toddlers isn't easy, so Coworker and I were happy to add a third body to the crew. I have a good relationship with boss and Coworker, and I imagine that the new hire would fit right in and everything would be copacetic. I mean, it's probably difficult to be a daycare worker, but you wouldn't work there unless you like kids. I don't think Tumblrina likes kids. She's just trying to supplement her disability check with some under-the-table income, isn't she? Maybe that's too far. Maybe that's too much to presume. Maybe I got it pegged all wrong. But her name is Tumblrina, so... That naive and hopeful younger version of OP had been dead for a long time now, and Tumblrina is the one that put the final nail in that coffin. No, don't let her do that to you. Come on, then she wins. Let's choose happiness today. Can we do that? Just try it. Feels good.
Could you have a great day? Could you do that for me? Thanks.
I arrived about an hour early on the Monday in question, as I generally do. Everything had been wiped down and reset on Friday, so all there was to do was sit and enjoy a $7 Starbucks latte. Why are you doing that?
Elliot Roger here, enjoying a nice vanilla latte.
Except it wasn't a latte, and I made it myself because working at a daycare doesn't pay diddly. Okay, you kind of got me there. It's like a inside ReddX reference, isn't it? Coffee really is just a foul soup with beans in it. You can make it yourself. Although, I'm sad that daycare work doesn't pay diddly. Like, I understand it has to be affordable for parents, and there's probably a lot of overhead. But like I said earlier, it's hard work. You deserve more than you get. OP reiterates, but again, I do enjoy the work, so I sat and took a deep inhalation of my brew. Something smelled off about it, though. Instead of creamy and smoky bean juice, I detected armpit, with just a hint of farts. There was the shadow of a rather large person outlined in the frosted glass on the front door. I froze at first because I thought it was a strange man. It's a tired dad dropping off his daughter. Can we not do this? Just say hello? Do you need something? Why are we all jumping to like being immediately gripped with fear? I mean, I do understand why, but maybe you just grab a knife or shake up the pepper spray and then you say, hello, do you need something? So you're prepared for what comes. Not to jump to the defense of strange man, but yeah, this is just part of, taking control. Don't you want to take control? Feels good. OP says I sat and watched them look from the lettering to their hand and back about 3 times. Oh, like the name of the daycare's on the glass. Okay. Perhaps they were checking the address. Can they read? Did they write it on their hand? Yeah, in crayon. Eventually, I decided to get up and intervene. I mean, that's why you're there early, isn't it? I don't mean to come after OP. It's probably good that you have your head on a swivel, Assess the situation before acting. I take back everything I said, except you should get a knife and or pepper spray. And or a ReddX brand crowbar. Or lead pipe. I forget which one we're doing. Probably crowbar because it has some utility outside beating people to death. Anyway, what were we talking about? I cracked the door open and a blast of stale sweat hit me directly in the nose. Despite my sense of smell being knocked for a loop and my eyes beginning to tear, I could tell that it was a woman. Oh, strange man is a woman. A messy bun of greasy, dark blue hair sat atop her head, and it looked like she had tried to apply her makeup with a paint roller. I'm surprised she could even hold her head up. She was wearing stained yoga pants that barely managed to contain her natural, assets. You could see the slightest glimpse of a fupa that hung over her upper thighs. Draped over the top of all that was a Tweety Bird t-shirt that was covered in at least a dozen cigarette burns. Okay, I want the body to be like 50-year-old trailer trash, smoking a cigarette, curlers in her hair. And then the head, we just rip it off from every SJW-owned compilation on the internet. Like I said, definitely painting a picture. I managed to keep a straight face and asked if she was our new coworker. She flashed her greenish yellow teeth at me and confirmed that she was. My heart sank. I guess I can't be that surprised about the bad dental hygiene. I mean, she clearly doesn't take care of the rest of herself. But you spend so much time fighting injustices in the world, maybe you could fight the injustices in your mouth for just... It takes like 2-3 minutes a day, please. Anyway, the Ham Mountain says, "My name is Tumblrina. It's good to meet you." She reached in, grabbed my hand, and gave it a shake. Yeah, sort of a violation there. You're supposed to wait for people to extend their hands towards you. Then the shake is like, mutual, not forced. There's so many little nuggets of cringe in this. I returned the pleasantries, but in my head I was skeptical that Tumblrina would even last more than a week or two. Yeah, you guys got like a trial period or something? Trial period sucks for the workers that don't get hired, but yeah, can save a company a lot of heartache. I decided not to pull the ripcord at this exact moment because we did need the help and because she might be a more effective worker than first impressions had led me to believe. Yeah, let's keep telling ourselves that. I'm sure anyone can guess that I was completely wrong, but I've had my share of off days and it wouldn't be the end of the world to give her the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, she's got a Tweety Bird t-shirt on. The kids will love that. Ignore the cigarette burns. The kids love Tweety Bird.
I'm a tweet with a bird in a deodorant page. Tweeted my name, but I don't know my age.
So I welcomed her in and gave her the rundown of our rules. She seemed to be fine with the majority, but our Smokefree Workplace seemed to cause an issue. I mean, can you walk down the street for a smoke break? Or are you coming back with that smoke on your clothes? That ain't no good for the kids, you see. Well, this is not a stereotypical Tumblerism. Tumblrina decided that she wanted to die on Tobacco Hill. Yeah, millions of Americans every year do the same.
Rolled up tight and lit on fire. Suck 'em down till you expire.
It was her right to smoke, and we were inhumane monsters to not understand her addiction. Yeah, you can't really drag your addiction into the workplace. That's not an argument that works. I'm just an alcohol addict, okay? Yeah, I should be able to drive this school bus. It's fine. She talked like this was a choice that I personally made to ensure that she was as miserable as possible at work. I continued to explain that this was a state requirement for childcare licensing and that we would lose our certification if she was caught smoking. I might not be a smoker, but I do understand that it isn't like black tar or China white or whatever the fuck. You can contain yourself for a few hours. Yeah, I mean, there's a physical side to a nicotine addiction, but it's definitely not as severe as other substances. Opioid derivatives. That's when you're really in trouble. Well, maybe you can contain yourself, but judging by Tumblrina's massive frame, self-control was definitely not her strong suit. We'll return to this a little bit later. Once I had Tumblrina situated and listened to half a lecture about how I was only in charge because of the color of my skin, well, my eyes rolled out of my head because I put in the work to get here, something Tumblrina couldn't begin to grasp. I don't want to get tilted by this cow years later, but that shit did rub me wrong. I don't blame you at all. I've had the same thing thrown in my face. It's fine. It's not a problem with you. This is how they justify their version of the world, okay? I don't know how long you had to deal with Tumblrina, how long ago your last interaction was, but let it go. It's fine. Don't let somebody else live rent-free in your head. That's dumb. So the kids finally begin to arrive, And I love all of the kids that we care for, although there are a few specific favorites. Now, you definitely can't play favorites, but inevitably you will. One of these favorites is a little boy we'll call Petey. Petey is a sweetie. Petey is my little helper. Petey must be protected at all costs. I welcome in all of my little wards and let them have their free play for a couple of hours while the late parents shuffle in. Yeah, that's me. Sorry. Free play is easy. Make sure everyone's sharing nicely, and yeah, the job basically does itself. Tumblrina disappeared for a long time during this period, and I didn't bother to go looking for her. Why? She's a new hire. I would say that you should definitely be supervisor. You said you're a supervisor? I look back and no, not really. Just a worker with a coworker, so I guess the boss is sitting with the L on this one. Do you really like your boss bad enough to just hand him a shit sandwich like this, though? Hey, let her do whatever she... What's the worst she can do? Light a fire in a daycare center?
I'm going to commit arson when I escape from these mortal chains.
Yeah, that's actually pretty bad. I don't know this person. You can't just give her the run of the place. But okay, your life, Opie. There was more than one occasion where an extra pair of hands would have been useful. Yeah, that's what she was hired for. Make her do it. Kids can be rambunctious even as early as 7 a.m. Yeah, oh God. It's just eyes snap open. They're like, woo! Keep going till 2 a.m. It just never stops. I do enjoy my children's lust for life, but maybe we just turn it down a notch or two, you know? And OP continues, I didn't go get her because the pair of hands that I wanted were not the fat, nicotine-stained ones that wouldn't do any lifting, while also telling me all about my white privilege and complaining about her myriad mental issues or representation of fat people in media. I've spoken to Tumblrina for all of 30 minutes, and it was clear that this wasn't going to work out. I was not the one in charge, however, though I would make some suggestions to the big boss. I continued on about my morning routine, with PD tailing me and telling me all about Blippy at a science museum. Yeah, thank God my kid grew out of Blippy, you know?
So much to learn about, it'll make you wanna shout.
Hey, stop!
I seen all the episodes, including the one where he did the Harlem Shake and pooped all over his friend. Have you seen that? It's on the Internet Archive. Download it before they delete it. Blippy's darkest moment. I thought about making a video on it. If I could be the one to break that story, but yeah, he's got millions of dollars. He could squish me like a bug. And kids will never really say anything that blows your mind. Also factual. But the misremembered steps of the water cycle were enough to keep my mind off of my weird coworker that was skulking around somewhere. Yeah, Petey knows how rain is formed. That's good. You pee in a lake, it goes in the sky, then it comes down on somebody else. More unsettling than all that, however, is where did our fucking Legbeard go? Hey guys, I'd like to tell you a Legbeard story. Then she left for an extended period. Okay, well, we'll find her. Although there has been recountings and mentions of her, and actually, come to think of it, I don't miss her all that much. We can just talk about anything else aside from, I don't know, SJW talking points. I'm simply not that interested in that, surprisingly. When the time for the morning meeting came, we call it circle time. I like morning meeting. Then I imagine all the kids in little suits with ties. I set off in search of Tumblrina so I could introduce her to the children. And I found her, quite shortly, in the makeshift kitchen area. She sat her gigantic happy ass down and helped herself to the boxes of animal crackers that were meant to be the snack that we generally have after circle time. Not a few boxes, all of them. She hungry. She didn't have breakfast. She got... You don't understand. Her sugars are low. Before 9 in the morning, she had decimated nearly 40 boxes of cookies. Where they had to be small boxes. They're child-sized boxes. And animal crackers, actually, they're pretty good for you, you know? Just try and spin it anyway. It's totally okay she did what she did. I know these children's parents are paying for them to be here, and probably they're going to starve today, but you must understand, this fat land whale was hungry. She was just sitting there sipping a 10th milk carton among its 9 fallen brethren. Those are the tiny ones too, right? Or is she drinking like 10 liters of milk in less than an hour? I was livid. Kids live by a schedule, and this had set the entire thing off balance. Yep, those kids are expecting cookies. They're not gonna be happy.
Put that cookie down.
The most enraging part was that she didn't even seem to notice how inconceivably pissed off I was as I shoved a few dollars into her hand and told her to fix the situation. Somewhere deep down inside of her fat-laden little brain, she was intelligent enough to understand that I was upset at this point. And in response, she explained how this was her form of self-expression, and how it's unacceptable that the patriarchy expect her to remain at a size that wouldn't kill her before she reached her mid-30s. Yeah, how about you apologize for your misdeeds? Nah, I gotta make excuses for myself. Oh, Tumblrina, there is no excuse for you. I just said, sure, whatever. The fight to develop heart disease will need to continue at a later date, and continued to badger her out the door. I like this OP. She got some claws on her, you know? I don't know what sort of snack she'd come back with, but anything was better than being left to the mercy of a few dozen hungry children. I mean, you guys are licensed. Doesn't this go against something? Don't they have to be healthy snacks? Well, she comes back with like a bunch of honey buns. Kids are sitting there eating 20 grams of sugar and 15 grams of saturated fat. Then you're just gonna have a classroom full of like tiny Tumblrinas. Is that what you want? I guess it's slightly better than leaving a complete stranger alone with all the children. I carried on with the morning meeting, explained who the new blue-haired lady was, and we carried on with a story and a song. And then another story and a song. And then another story and a song. At this point, I'm clearly stalling for time. The kids don't know. They're having a good time, singing, clapping. Get to hear about the hungry caterpillar. And I like that you referred to her as the blue-haired lady instead of, you know, like this fat planetoid that found its way into our orbit. Tumblrina is literally nowhere to be found. It's around this point that it becomes clear that no matter how repulsive I find this pig woman, I'm gonna need to keep her under my thumb, and perhaps with enough effort, she could be molded into a halfway decent caregiver. Oh, come now, OP. She can't even care for herself. You should have had her under your thumb the entire time. But better late than never, that's fine. First, however, I would need to go and find her. Snack time would need to be kicked down the road, so we moved into a structured activity about colors. There was some dissent about this decision. Kids love a schedule, like I said. Yeah, they're expecting cookies. They're like, but miss, you forgot about our snack. I didn't forget, everything's just gone off the rails. But you shouldn't panic, children. I'm definitely not panicking. Eventually, however, they did all get seated with their crayons and were absorbed into the activity. I couldn't leave them by themselves, and my coworker wasn't due to arrive until lunch, but I managed to take a peek into the parking lot. I wasn't sure if Tumblrina had driven in, at least until I spied her vehicular monstrosity in the parking lot. Oh no. It was an early 2000s Astro van, which could be legitimately useful in a profession like this. Yeah, that's like the soccer mom van, isn't it? Unfortunately, the van wasn't fit for field trips of any sort. In fact, I was rather uncomfortable even having something like that so close to the school. You see, the van was covered with lewd pictures of course, of some very plus-sized anime characters. There was nothing truly explicit, but It was not the kind of thing that you'd want a child to see. As my eyes finally got over the horrible aesthetic choices, I noticed that there was a great big lump slumped in the front seat. That bitch! She hadn't gone anywhere! She was sitting there! In her degenerate mobile, having her own private karaoke sing-along. Oh, how nice for you. You get paid for this, do you? I was so upset that I broke protocol without even thinking about it. I sprinted to her vehicle and wrenched the door open, berating her endlessly about her complete disregard for the kids. She ate their fucking food! I dug into her lack of professionalism, pointing out her complete lack of preparedness for the first day on the goddamn job. She just sat there, dull-eyed and heavy-lidded like some monstrous humanoid mud pie. Well, I spilled every ounce of my frustration out. I really don't think she's absorbing any of that. She's not hearing you at all. Just has her own little monologue going on in her head, but bless you for trying. I love lashing out, I love pushing back, but yeah, some people are just immovable objects, so we're gonna have to learn how to push harder. When I started to wind down, she put a fat paw onto my shoulder and reassured me that she was just about to leave and get the cookies. I had to get back to the kids, so I huffed and stalked back to work. I knew those cookies would never make it back to the classroom. It's a bit of foreshadowing in that. I texted Coworker and informed her that we would need some emergency supplies because this new hire was a fucking living nightmare. I think that's the best way to put it. I'd call up Big Boss and be like, you need to let her go today, now. It's her or me. I'd love to have a new pair of hands, but this is like having negative hands. One hand's cleaning up the kids and one hand's cleaning up her mess. She's a net negative. Anyway, I tried to calm myself and sat down to color with the kids. Oh, I like that. See, that's the sort of thing that makes me think a daycare job might be all right. You can make a little caterpillar out of pipe cleaners and shit and be like, that's my job for the day. But yeah, it's more difficult than all that. Petey kept asking me if something was wrong or why I looked mad. I just told him that sometimes adults get sleepy and I probably didn't get enough rest. That seemed to satisfy his curiosity. Stuff like that is why I love working with kids. They never try to dig too deep. That's true. They take everybody at face value. I admire that, but also it's sort of terrifying. Finally, the hour of structured activity had passed, and now it was time for 90 minutes of outdoor play before lunch. Yeah, please feed these fucking kids. They probably didn't even have a breakfast. They're like, they gotta feed you at daycare. They didn't. Do you have any diabetics among them? I might be a little bit more worried about this. I took the kids into the back for outdoor activity today because I knew Tumblrina was going to come rolling right up to the school again in her abortion mobile. Did she have a lot of coat hangers in the back? Is that how we earned the name? How could one person be so clueless? How could I get rid of her? My mind wandered again when I suddenly smelled smoke. Sickly sweet cigarette smoke. Sometimes kids from the nearby high school wander by or try to hide out near the fence to burn one. Not the first time I've told them off, but as I peered around looking for the smokers, I was greeted by the same gigantic anime watermelon asses.
Okay, all right. Now, do you prefer Fatty or Miss Boombaletti?
That had cringed me nearly to death not even an hour earlier. She didn't even... There's like such massive disrespect, dude. She was still there, sitting in her stupid goddamn motherfucking bullshit degenerate moron mobile. Oh, she hadn't gone anywhere. She drove around the block to continue the karaoke and apparently burn a few more cigs. That is ludicrous. I highly suspect that I was the one who paid for those cigs as well, since, spoilers, she never gave me back the $10 that was meant for emergency cookie funds. Rage doesn't begin to describe the depths of anger I had toward her at this point. Not to pick everything apart, but where are you getting animal crackers for 25 cents each? Not in these days and times. Not a decade ago either, I don't think. Maybe they got a supplier, I don't know. My hate was in full control, and without a second thought, I picked up a Mr. Potato Head and pitched it at her windshield. It's probably not gonna crack. It's hollow. It's plastic. That is hilarious, though. The kids were shocked. I like to think she snatched it out of a kid's hand. He's like sitting there trying to put the ears on, and teacher's like, "Give me that shit, yeet!" This had come out of nowhere in their eyes. I laughed it off as, "Oh, look, it's a flying potato head." So funny, dude. As I shuffled them back into the front yard and away from the second-hand airborne poisons. Tumblrina rolled down her window to say something, but I pointed at her and then at the daycare while mouthing, "Now." If she didn't show her ugly mug before backup arrived, I'd make it my life's mission to ensure that she regretted that choice. Dude, day one, we're already hostile work environment. This is this is going really great. I'm liking that a lot. Well, Tumblrina waddled back in 15 minutes later, feigning obliviousness, again, to the fact that I was about ready to bite her nose off. Slowly I was adjusting to her way of manipulation. I'd either have to get her fired by any means necessary, or I'd have to learn to combat her manipulation tactics with a few tricks of my own. Screaming in her face clearly wasn't going to work. More spoilers, getting her fired didn't work either because our daycare runs on a shoestring budget, and Tumblrina was just waiting to scream wrongful termination. No. In order to subvert her ways, I'd need to take up her causes, participate in her delusions. Little did I know how deep some of those delusions would run. To be continued. Oh, that's tasty. That's real good. Nice cliffhanger there. My goodness. I'm chomping at the bit for more of this. Yeah, Tumblrina's an interesting character. Obviously, like Moby Vic before her. Also, kind of like Hamthrax. Just very good at using corporate law as a sword. I don't know what kind of fat people dojo they teach that, that martial art in. But it certainly seems effective. At least at keeping them employed for some period of time before inevitably it all falls apart. And this is only like, it's not even this is just the morning of the first day. I don't know how many incidents like this we're gonna have, but yeah. How can you beat a Mr. Potato Head being chucked at like an anime van? That's... that slays me, dude. So, I hope you come back, write more. "Miss Blue Hair has something to say, everybody," she began, and we all waited. "Vegetables are meant for rabbits and horses."
Eat your vegetables!
Don't send your kids to daycare. Part 2, Smoke Machine, by user It's Not Gay, It's Science.
What kind of name is that?
But still, the greatest thing ever. So glad you guys enjoyed the last story. I will keep it a Reddit exclusive because I doubt anyone else could truly do the tale justice. I don't know, there's a few people. Walter Fate, he's really the only other Reddit person I watch though. Who else puts as much soul into the narration? Well, that's true. Walter Fate kinda does sound sort of monotone, a little soulless. Sorry, Walter. I used to watch a lot of Reddit channels. Now, only ReddX remains. Well, me and Noble Xenon. I guess it's just a matter of do you like talking a lot in the middle or no? Some people really don't. OP continues, ReddX is the only one that feels like a real person. And to that I say, fooled ya.
She got your ass.
You had no idea I was an AI simulation this entire time. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that I appreciate your appreciation, and with that said, I figure we should kick this thing off ASAP. I won't cover previous parts, there is no cast list. Try to keep up. I like that style. We do things and we do them fast. I ain't got time for all that other horse shit. I can learn something here. Tumblrina wandered in from her ultra-extended, nearly 2 or 3 hour unintended break, smelling like an ashtray. Oh yeah, that's great for the kids. And I do believe that she had at least another new cigarette burn or two in her oversized Tweety Bird t-shirt. I guess it's hard to stop from immolating yourself while you're screeching along to generic anime intros at the top of your lungs. I know people are going to ask what animes. It's an inevitable question. Can you download Shazam and specify one of the animes, please? Thank you. I didn't have the energy to even look at her. My hands were still shaking, but I did my best to hide that fact from the kids as we prepped for lunch. Besides, we didn't have snack yet. We're so hungry, teacher. Please? Where the cookies? That little goblin kid.
Mama, may I have cookie?
No, Diabito. Roll back to kitchen.
Oh.
The chorus of hungry mouths began to sing a dissonant tune. I wanted to point at Tumblrina and scream that she was the reason for everyone's misfortune today, including my own. But instead, I patted the kids on the back and cooed, "I'm so sorry, we will get you something to eat right now." That is what it's like to deal with a 2-year-old, man. If they don't have their nap and their food, they're going to melt down in a big way. Coworker was due to arrive at any moment, and we were hurriedly setting the table so we could get these kids fed and hopefully salvage the day from the disaster that Tumblrina had inflicted. I should have known that she wasn't done being a disaster. At a certain point, I'm not sure Tumblrina can help herself. Her destructive nature is inborn, like Godzilla, but less tall and more wide. She's just a force of nature. There needs to be some chaos in the world. It's all part of the delicate balance. And when I say we set the table, I mean me and the older kids. Tumblrina continued to do her best impression of a bump on a log. Did you just throw a potato head at her? It was enough motivation to get her inside and that's it? OP questions, how is it even possible to watch every capable person in the room setting a table and to just continue standing there? Has she elevated herself to a supervisory role? I was totally going to say that joke. Or are her neurons just so clogged with nicotine and slop food that they refuse to fire? Yeah, tar's a hell of a thing, you know? I like to think that this started long before the nicotine, long before the slop food. She came out of mom and she was quiet. Those neurons never started firing, but then she started walking around and we're like, well, I guess we can't just throw her away now. It's been however many years later and I will advocate. It's still not too late to throw her away. Why are you just standing there?
What are you doing?
Me? Just hanging around.
And OP needs to point it out too. Although they're both probably still boiling a little bit. You know, you don't want to start a fist fight in front of the kids or something. Anyway, a mystery for another day, I suppose. I didn't want to start a scene in front of the kids, again, so I began very cautiously. Tumblrina, would you like to come and help us set the table for lunch? No thanks, I'm good, was her reply. Bitch. Frustrating, but we are not going to leave it there. I'm pretty sure it's part of your job to help us. Please come and do it. Now. Yeah, that good old parent voice. It works 100% of the time on kids and 80% of the time on mental children. You know, the big people with the little brains. Oh boy, cue the righteous indignation. Why do you cis white women always think you can order people around? You're worse than white men, because you want to pretend to be an ally when in reality, you do nothing but sit on your high horse and boss people around. I mean, you're the one that decided to work here. Why not start your own daycare, and then you can make the rules yourself? No white babies allowed. Just imagine it. There's so much to unpack there. And also, in the statement that she made, like, I don't know if OP's an ally or not. It says, have they ever stated that out loud? I don't think so. Whatever, I'm not going to sit here and unpack the whole thing. They're the ravings of a lunatic is what they are. You've done nothing with your life, so this is how you need to see the world. I understand that. If you used even a fraction of that energy directed as hate towards others into something that would better yourself in your life, then you would do better. But yes, it's been made quite clear that she doesn't care about doing better. She cares about doing the bare minimum. I'm into slacking off a little bit, but come on, make sure fucking something gets done. Anyway, I took a sharp inhale through my teeth and attempted to count to 10. I'm more than happy to have a knockdown drag out with this legitimate porcine wannabe princess, but right now was not the time. Yeah, think of the children, not in front of the kids. Exactly. Instead, I simply ended the conversation with, "That's not being a very good friend," and continued on with my task. Tumblrina wasn't quite ready to let it drop, however. A good friend would be an ally to communities in need. A good friend would understand that I'm not as capable as someone with thin privilege. In privilege. A good friend would allow me the time and space I need to express myself, and I let out a sharp laugh and cut her off. Ha! Your form of self-expression is eating the food that is set aside for the children that you're supposed to be in charge of. You are literally, I was gonna say something along the lines of a pig monster or the worst employee we've ever had, but the realization had dawned that she wouldn't respond to coercion, so I went a different way, and I kept my fingers crossed that it would work. You're literally so right. It's really difficult to keep this figure. I only do it because I'm forced to. For men. Yeah, see, put yourself on the same side. See, aren't we in the same box? You really want to be in that box, OP? It probably will get her to do what you want because she's seeking, like, any drop of social approval. But then, you know, you have to be friends with her and... can't do it.
You dirty pig! Get out!
Tumblrina rolled her eyes. Men are so disgusting! They can't appreciate a full-figured woman! She hoovered up that drop of social approval, didn't she? She hungry. I nodded and told her, yeah, to get our minds off of it, let's set the table. But not for men, she said. We're doing this to prepare a feast for our own sapphic goddesses. Petey piped in. What's a sapphic goddess? Oh, great. Choice phrases headed back home. You're too little to worry about that, kiddo. We're actually setting the table for my favorite people in the whole world, and that's all of you! And I began to playfully chase the kids around the table until they jumped into their seats and shouted, "Safe!" You better be careful, OP, making kids run around like that. They fall down over nothing.
Name is Flash.
It was a sweet moment. We have a lot of those, to be honest. I glanced at Tumblrina to gauge her reaction to the entire situation, and she was looking around the room like something had crawled straight up her gargantuan barrel of an ass and died. What was it? A rather large animal to fit in a barrel. That's not like a skunk or a possum. That's a small-sized donkey or a capybara. She's got a capybara up there. I smiled sweetly and asked Tumblrina to sit, and she attempted to excuse herself for the 20th smoke break of the day. Not today, bitch. I think we've had enough of that for a while. You should really participate in the job that you came here to do. This, of course, led into a tirade about how evil capitalism was and how the means of production should be given back to the people. I think you'll find that the people don't really know what to do with it. You can ask Pol Pot about that one. Tumblrina said that by stealing hours, she was fighting against the capitalist system that made her life such a living hell. You're the one that made your life a living hell. Perform a function you enjoy with gusto and be paid for it, and like your life can be pretty cool too, you know? But she just doesn't want to play ball. I'm sorry to say, but that's a really hard way to go. Ramtide found that out. I have always been willing to play ball in the name of my own comfort. YouTube told me not to say fuck in the first 7 seconds, so I don't say fuck in the first 7 seconds anymore. You just gotta play ball. It's fine. OP says, I know Red loves Peep Show, so I'll use one of my favorite quotes here. It's only by the miracle of consumer capitalism that you're not lying in your own shit, dying at 43 with rotten teeth.
And a little pill with a chicken on it is not going to change that. Now, come on. Fuck off.
It doesn't quite apply because that's like, Mark after a night of supposed twacking. But he is right at the end of the day. It's not a plan to keep you all in little boxes. Consumer capitalism's pretty fucking rad compared to anything else that I could consider. The problem comes when government regulation oversteps its boundaries. Never mind, it's not for this video, it's fine. Thank you for the Peep Show reference. OP says, I guess we could change out the designer drug chicken pill with a smoky plant-based poison. Oh yeah, that's a good analogy. I think then it sort of works. Anyway, the point remains the same. I refused to let her leave. I explained that we had children that we were in charge of, and that if she wanted this job, then she'd need to pull her own weight like the rest of us. What do you mean, pull my own weight, you skinny little? Suddenly the front door opened and Coworker walked in. Hey everybody, brought y'all some lunch. Hey, that's a new character. And I hope it actually was interrupted, that she didn't say any bad words in front of the little kids. More choice phrases going home. Driving little Petey home and he's like, that bitch was a sapphic goddess. What did you say?
Watch your mouth, young man.
Thank God that the cavalry had officially arrived with pizza. Yeah, we do pizza parties. Why not? It's a happy Monday, everybody. It's still Monday, right? The room erupted with applause from a myriad of little hands, and the conflict that Tumblrina and I were embroiled in seemed to have been put on pause, at least for a moment. Now, my coworker is a white man. He's gay, but not all that flamboyant, so most people can't tell and don't bother asking. Tumblrina took personal offense to this series of events, of course, and she started again with her ranting. Why do white men always have to be the saviors of the universe? Give me a minute. We were fine before your pizza, and we'd be just fine without it. The only way I'd ever accept a slice is if you offered it, along with an apology for 500 years of oppression. Sorry. We good? Actually, a slice isn't enough. See, this is always how it goes. It's never going to be enough. It will never be enough. And I want to clarify that I'm not targeting any specific group of people aside from the takers. The takers know who they are. It's all bullshit. Be a giver. But don't give to the takers, see? That's not great. Then they start expecting things, and if you feed them, they'll never leave. And so what do you want aside from a slice, Tumblrina? I want my own pizza and a 2-liter Pepsi and some wings. Oh, and some buffalo wings sound really good too. Are wings and buffalo wings different? Also, do they have those crazy breadsticks with the garlic sauce? Drool.
The only word for it is...
So, that's the only apology I'll accept from you, you oppressive colonialist capitalist. Coworker turns to me with a look of, is this for real right now?
Who the f*** starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
She's angry that the pizza has arrived? I would think that she'd have really the inverse opinion of it, but then again, she's got a belly full of 40 bucks of animal crackers, ain't that right? She probably ate the Mr. Potato Head too. Is it still sitting out there in the street? Just never mention it again. Sorry kids, it's gone. I know you liked it, but it's gone forever now. So yeah, what is Coworker going to do? Coworker turned to me with a look of, is this for real right now, on his face, before turning back toward Tumblrina and letting loose his own retort. Gay men are catty, true, but Coworker's on a completely different level. Directness and occasional savagery was one of the things that we agreed upon despite our differing political alignments. As far as I can recall, he said something along the lines of, you couldn't eat the way that you do without corporations being forced to victimize entire nations on behalf of her royal largeness. I guess I should just be grateful that you didn't eat one of the children yet. I looked around and the kids were clearly shaken up. Petey held my leg and whined, is Miss Bluehair going to eat us? Maybe. I'm not gonna let her, but she might try. It's funny, dude. I patted his hand and said, no, of course not. Mr. Coworker's just probably tired from carrying all that pizza. We should sit down and have some. Yeah, that's what you do with kids. Redirect them. Oh, you're throwing a fit over bullshit that doesn't actually matter? Well, here's something different. And they're like, oh, different. Works my 2-year-old, works my 6-year-old. I know what I'm talking about here. With that, Coworker and I took to doling out the grease cheese and cardboard dough with sugar water before turning to Tumblrina. What's the sugar? You're not feeding these kids sodas, are you? Do you do that? Oh, God. This has got to be like a daycare in the deep south. Just see a baby walking around with nothing but a diaper on and a bottle full of Pepsi.
Lois, I'm about to drink my first soda. Better come stop me.
Anyway, when the distribution was completed, OP turns to Tumblrina, who was again doing her best to supervise this process, and I said, you and I need to have a talk outside. Coworker, can you handle them for a few minutes? He nodded with a mouthful of plasticky pizza, and I opened the door, ushering Tumblrina out into the front yard. On her way out, she attempted to rummage through a pizza box on the table, and Coworker pinned it shut with his free hand before pointing out the door with his cheesy triangle. That's wonderful. The meaning is probably like you get pizza after the meeting, but I like to infer like, no, you've had enough pizza forever. You don't get to eat this anymore. Once we were outside, I would have liked to have fought her. Right then and there, just pound her stupid fat face into a bloody pulp, not completely dissimilar to saucy pizza dough. Hey, you really are fed up, ain't you? Women don't usually jump to physical violence. Then again, if there's something that needs to get done, women will do it. And if the thing that needs to get done is physical violence, and a man won't do it on their behalf, then... yeah, that's how that cookie crumbles. OP says, I took a moment to collect my thoughts before saying, do you understand why whatever brand of politics you might have shouldn't matter in a place like this? That's so true, dude. Oh my God. Compare this to something like School of Beards, where everybody's vying for the children's minds. Thank God it has to wait a few years before they get into the public school system. It's neither here nor there, I guess. She looked at me like a toad that just had a bong rip before replying, can I smoke a cigarette? No, goddammit. This creature wasn't going to hear me regarding politics, but I continued on with my point. It's because these kids are here to learn the basics. Whatever you believe outside of this place doesn't matter. You'll leave it at the door when you show up in the morning. Teach the kids about colors and shapes, play some Legos, provide a stable environment and a friendly face. And yeah, this is the greatest job in the world. You have a great opportunity here, and instead of focusing on the children that you were hired to watch over, you're constantly jonesing for a snack or a cigarette like every 10 minutes. I like this approach. Instead of punching, we're like trying to talk her around, but yeah, I don't have high hopes. You might be wasting your breath right now. The heavy-lidded, dull-eyed stare continued as she slowly reached her hand into the blown-out band of her yoga pants for a familiar rectangular package. It was partially comical to watch someone presuming everyone's vision is based on movement, like hers clearly is. I also partially seethed so hard that I wanted to make good on my pizza dough power fantasy. As soon as the pack of cigarettes appeared, I slapped them into the grass. There you go. There's the escalation. Day 1 and we're already seeing some bloodshed. Well, not yet, but soon. Slapped them into the grass and eyeballed Tumblrina hard. We do not smoke on or near this property, I said, my voice dripping with venom. Yeah, light up, I dare you, bitch. I do believe that OP would punch her in the mouth over it. She was gawping for a moment, sort of like a fish out of water. Yeah, she didn't expect the physical violence. She thought she could get away with it. Nobody's ever truly taken her to task, but OP, you might be the chosen one. I could see her crusted and caked CPU attempting to calculate her next move. I bet she doesn't even make the funny clicking sounds like computers do. She just drools on herself. Of course, she really only had one move that I can recall. Stop oppressing everyone around you, she sputtered. Yeah, it's all about oppression, that's it. It's the only 3-syllable word she knows, and by God, she's gonna use it! I have been nothing but kind. I haven't judged you for your looks, despite your demeanor, and I've attempted to keep things civil and professional. I spoke sharply, but still in a professional tone. We were both still relatively quiet at this point. You judged me immediately, she whined. When? You came looking for me in the kitchen and blamed me for eating all the cookies. Her whining grew louder. I raised my voice to match hers and spat out, the kitchen was one of the last places I looked, and you deserve the blame for eating all the cookies because, duh, you did eat all the fucking cookies. Don't curse about the kid. They can probably hear you in there. No, not like this, OP. Then again, she pitched a Mr. Potato Head across the yard, so I'm not too hopeful on the control of one's temper. We were both at full volume now, but I'm not going to type it in all caps. Yeah, and I'm not going to scream it either. Tumblrina continued the gaslighting. It was probably one of the little snot noses sitting in there eating all the pizza! I was incredulous. How dare you speak about them that way? Every last one of them is a better person than you could ever hope to be. They ask for help because they don't know any better. You demand help because you feel entitled to it. Her mouth started flapping again, no words coming out. I don't blame her. The truth can be a hard thing to process sometimes. And you were telling her the truth, 100%. If she has to get burnt to the ground in order to burn her lesson and build herself back up eventually, then so be it. Sometimes this is for the best. Sometimes a little tough love goes a long way, you know? OP says, seems like verbal jousting's a bit tougher in real life, eh, piggy? Because she's always arguing on Tumblr or message boards. I came in for a death blow and brought my voice low again. You can't stand the thought of anyone succeeding on merit because you have no fucking merit. You haven't sat with yourself and your thoughts long enough to even consider what your merit might be. Just the thought of it is enough to scare you. That's why you're always smoking and eating, isn't it? To try and run away from the demons that infest your soul. I see you for what you are. You have nothing inside of yourself, so you want to pull apart the beautiful things that other people have built. You can't appreciate innocence or beauty because you don't even know what the fuck they are anymore. You're a disaster. Get out of my sight. Damn, dude. Goosebumps. You kind of caught me with that one, too. There's a little collateral damage. Wow. Cut me to the quick.
Ow! That hurt! I didn't hurt you!
Yeah, you're right. I probably should sit with my thoughts a little more. A little dopamine detox, that ain't never hurt nobody. I noticed OP has not mentioned that they got on a phone or whatever even once. At this point, Tumblrina finally found her voice and a new angle because I added the word demons. She started up with, "You're just some religious nutjob that doesn't realize yada yada yada." I knew at least some of my words had sunk through. I could see it in her eyes. Yeah, you cut her deep. You cut me deep, dude. That's for real. I turned and walked away with a dismissive wave of my hand. Regard microaggression. She was still ranting, but I did make sure to say, "We are absolutely done here," which admittedly isn't me ridding myself of her on the spot. It won't hold up in a court of law, let's say. More on that down the road. Ooh, foreshadowing. Did you guys go to court? That's wild. At least for the moment, though, I had found a reprieve. I sat and ate some preservative-laden food product while Coworker and I chatted about nicer things with the children. There were questions about what Miss Science and Miss Blue Hair were yelling about. Petey said it sounded like when his dad gets home from work. Coworker and I exchanged a worried glance, and then we talked about double plus extra nice things. It's terrifying, dude. I hope Petey is okay in his home life. What the fuck? We had to wheel out the elves and leprechauns and unicorns, but eventually the kids were sufficiently full and distracted, and it was just about nap time. So we closed all the curtains and turned the lights down as the kids grabbed their cots. Nap time is really just gossip girl time, especially today. I filled Coworker in on the argument and how I'd told Tumblrina to go home. He immediately started peeking out the windows and then turned back to me with that little smirk that gay dudes tend to get when they know something that you don't know. It's the weird feeling of secret power. Except I knew exactly what that meant, and I rolled my eyes as I huffed over to look out the curtain. The Astro van with the BBW anime collage was still out there. "Why isn't she going home? What the fuck?" Coworker said, 1, 2, 3, not it, and touched his nose, which is a thing that he does, and I usually let him get away with it, but not this time. I had dealt with the beast all day. I'm not going out there to face that creature again, I declared. "Give me one good reason why," he demanded, and I sheepishly admitted that I had thrown a Mr. Potato Head at the van earlier that day. He laughed, and we joked about doing it again, or walking out there to menace her with a Mr. Potato Head. Yeah, you gotta keep the eyes on. That's the most menacing part. In the end, we decided to just leave her to her own devices and somehow learn to enjoy our new smoke machine. I mean, it lets out a lot of smoke for a person, but I don't think it lets out a lot of smoke compared to a smoke machine. You gotta step your game up, Tumblrina. You wanna keep this job? She doesn't care. OP says with our new smoke machine, we could maybe start up an electro two-piece. Lady and the Bitch was a heavy favorite. Of course, you have to say the last part with just your mouth because little ears are always listening. Oh, they really are always listening. Eventually, nap time concluded. It is a really short 30 minutes, and I agreed to make a snack run while Coworker oversaw the wake-up activity. I'd go buy carrots and celery, maybe a little ranch. Not too much, though. Don't want them turning into little Tumblrinas. As if she could ever truly be little. Speaking of, I didn't need to pass by the human smoke machine, but she must have been paying enough attention to spot me. Uh-oh. I didn't even really notice because I was on the clock and on a mission. I bolted in, grabbed my supplies, and stepped outside to see the D-Gen mobile lurking the parking lot around 2 cars away from mine. I sighed, but stayed on task. Tumblrina had opened the gigantic sliding double-thick booty side door, and she beckoned me over. And OP is big brain, so she says I shook my head and said, "Kids need snacks. If you want to talk, then I'll be at work." Sure enough, when I pulled up to work, she was right behind me. I had my mind set on getting rid of her. Coworker would back me up, but would Big Boss? Maybe. Big Boss was a very soft and forgiving person. Part of me knew that we'd be forced to, quote-unquote, give her a chance. And I really didn't want to do that, but yeah, I knew. I've been here long enough. I knew. I mean, it's Big Boss's money she's throwing away, I guess. You want to feed a bottomless pit? You go right ahead. Tumblrina yelled something about an apology. Didn't matter if it was delivering one or demanding one. Yeah, it was definitely demanding one. I guarantee you that. I dashed across the street with groceries in hand and burst in the door. Okay, second snack is here, and also Tumblrina's coming in to say sorry to all of us, and the kids let out their responses. I don't like Miss Blue Hair. This is first snack, Miss Science. She should be sorry. I really like those cookies. The peanut gallery of kids is written really well. Coworker and I exchanged the usual glance that means, them kids ain't lying. And I went to do prep, while Coworker sat all kids down. About 5 minutes later, the door opened because, of course, the human smoke machine would need to suck down another death stick before attempting to avoid even more consequences. I could hear Tumblrina's thunderous steps waddling toward the kitchen area. Soon the smell of celery and carrots faded, only to be replaced with the thick stench of stale smoke and failure. Again, this is collateral damage. You cut me deep with this, OP. She stood there, her girth blocking the doorway, looking like she was about to deliver the world's most insincere apology, or perhaps demand another tribute in the form of snacks. These snacks ain't for you. We can fight to the death over it, we can. I could hear the kids giggling and whispering. I wanted to get them fed, but first I stared pointedly at the behemoth blocking my path. Say something or move, please, I growled. Tumblrina opted not to say anything for once in her miserable life, and she moved her gigantic frame aside. Tumblrina followed me and did her supervising, which is to say that she didn't say or do anything. The kids were chattering around the vegetables in their mouths. They seemed none the wiser to the awkward, looming presence of the ever-watchful, glaucoma-laden eyes. The hell is glaucoma? Glaucoma is a chronic progressive eye disease caused by damage to the optic nerve. One of the major risk factors is eye pressure. An abnormality in the eye's drainage system can cause fluid to build up, leading to excess pressure that causes damage to the optic nerve. From John Hopkins Medicine. So yeah, I guess if you're fat enough, the fat presses against your eyes or something. That's good. I learned that today. Trace amounts of science. And I also love the phrasing. Ever watchful glaucoma-laden eyes, because they can't see. Coworker and I talked some more with our eyes, and I could tell it was up to me to pry that oyster open. I'd built such a rapport with her, after all. Once everyone had a plate, Tumblrina smashed her giant ham hocks together in what us humans would call a clap. It was seriously super loud, even to the kids. We all jumped and then stared. Miss Blue Hair has something to say, everybody, she began, and we all waited. Vegetables are meant for rabbits and horses.
Eat your vegetables!
Oh my god. It's only good for old people, but You kids shouldn't be eating. Coworker and I both stood to quiet her, and she made a really quick turn into, I'm really sorry for not being here today. I've just been really busy, and it's not a great thing on the first day of work, but I really do just have so much other stuff going on right now, she concluded, and I raised an eyebrow. Coworker shrugged and said, yeah, I suppose we did get off on the wrong foot. Why don't you sit down and have some delicious vegetables with us and tell us about yourself? We're always happy to meet a new friend. I could sense the sarcastic tone, but perhaps Tumblrina didn't. She sat. When offered a plate, she said, ew, no thanks! And my jaw dropped. Coworker managed to keep pace, replying with a snappy, oh, that's really good manners. I appreciate that. Petey broke the tension in the air by asking for more ranch. I doled it out and told the kids to finish up so we could enjoy some more outdoor time. I guess when Tumblrina hears the word outdoors, she has to go light up. I'm not sure if it's MK Ultra mind control or what, but she quickly stood up and muttered, oh, I'll be right back, before speed waddling out the door. She definitely is a Russian experiment of some sort. That much we know. There were a few minutes of peace as we prepared for outdoor play. I poked my head out the door and took a sniff to determine if there was poison in the air, but there was none. So I stepped into the yard and took a survey for the eyesore of a vehicle, and it was nowhere to be found. Coworker let the kids out in the yard, and Petey ran up to me asking, where did Miss Bluehair go? I told him I wasn't sure, and he said, I hope she stays gone. Petey's a real one for sure. Me too, little guy. Me too. But I didn't say that. I just guided him toward the water toys that he enjoys playing with. The rest of the day was buttery smooth. Business as usual. I told Big Boss about everything as the parents came through for pickup, except the flying potato head. I should not have done that, especially in front of the kids. Yeah, that's our little secret, don't worry. Big Boss said the van was unacceptable and that we'd need to work with Tumblrina and find acceptable conflict resolution strategies and compromise and blah, blah, blah. I knew it was coming, like I said. You work 10 years, you do know somebody that well. Boss is a bit of a pushover, so it's good to have somebody as like the right-hand woman that doesn't take any bullshit and will fight for what they think is right. Unfortunately, yeah, Boss is the one in charge, so we gotta pretend to be a pushover for however long the conflict resolution strategy takes. All of this meant that we were stuck with Tumblrina until at least Friday. It was going to be a very long week. Yeah, 2 parts and we're only through Monday? Jeez. But I'm kind of digging that, you know? Tumblrina doesn't seem that bad. She disappears a lot of the time. Even when she is forced into the room, she's basically quiet unless somebody asks her to do something. And then she hits you with all the Tumblerisms. It probably does lead this series to be a bit more politically pointed than I would normally go for. But I don't know, changing days, changing times. If this was in the range of 2012 to 2016, like I said, Tumblrinas ran rampant. Now you're sort of seeing the arm swing back the other way. But OP doesn't seem super right-leaning, you know, just sort of a base centrist like the rest of us. I think that's the way to go through life. I can't tell you how to live, but that's the way I've chosen to go through life. I rounded the corner only to see Tumblrina suckling the bottle of ranch dressing that we had used for snack earlier.
Oh my god, he's covered in f***ing ranch! Oh my goodness!
Don't send your kids to Daycare 3. Ranch sauce and slide shards. You get the slide shards and the ranch sauces? Oh, that's not good. OP says, I feel like I'm on a roll, so I'm going to write this part before the ReddX narration of the second part, which is now up. I do hope that you all enjoy it. As usual, we'll hit the gas, no recap, no cast list. Try to keep up. Nice. Welcome back, user. It's not gay, it's science. Dawn of a new day. Tuesday. I arrived early as usual and just ruminated on my own thoughts while enjoying my coffee. What I do isn't quite meditation, but I do find that staying quiet and sorting through your thoughts can lead to some revelations. Yeah, absolutely. Put your phone down, you know. You'd be surprised how much good stuff brain can come up with when there's not, you know, electronic obelisk waved in front of its face. All that to say, I do support your decision for non-meditation, OP. Today, those thoughts were mostly about how to deal with Tumblrina if she should have the guts to show up again. Oh, she will. That's why we got this story. Otherwise, it'd be a one-off. Coworker and I could be catty the entire time, but that wasn't conducive to the kids and their learning. I made my mind up that today we'd try a new angle. Hey, what's that angle?
From 90 to 180, an angle is obtuse. This angle's kinda fat, it's got a big caboose.
She had been nice and complied when I agreed with her and fed into her delusions, so it was possible that we could just try that for an extended period. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the entire world has done with her, and that's why she's sunk so deep into this weird worldview. She needs the reality check, and she needs the reality check to be, like, completely relentless. At least that's my strategy. It hasn't seemed to work so far, but I'm not one to give up hope. If I mean enough to you, eventually it will stick. That's my theory. OP says, I wasn't sure all that would put a stop to the million smoke breaks, but a plan is a plan. I mean, not much of a plan, is it? Give her what she wants? Fuck that. But you do you. Whatever makes the workday easier, I guess. Eventually, Tumblrina did knock on the door, and I trudged over to answer it. It took a long moment to perk myself up and try to start the day on a good note. Good morning, I smiled as I opened the door. To what should have been my shock, she was wearing the exact same outfit as she had on yesterday. Everybody notices, Tumblr. You need to change that, okay? You smell like a bag of shit. Even the kids notice, probably. She just doesn't do her laundry or what? Tumblrina grunted like a pig and went to put her things down. I shrugged. You aren't gonna throw my day off kilter, hog lady. I continued on with my morning routine as the kids began to arrive. This time, I didn't let Tumblrina disappear. Yeah, we're learning lessons from yesterday, huh? She was gonna be my best pal for the entire week, and I'd see if that alone wouldn't make her quit. Yeah, I don't think she likes the micromanagement. I mean, truth be told, probably nobody wants to be a micromanager either, but it's just, you know, you're not worth a shit at your job, so what am I supposed to do here? OP says, the mud beast simply stood as the children came in and started picking up their favorite toys. Not even gonna, like, say hi to the kids, try and play with them or anything. Yeah, just stand there. Stand there. We don't need to build rapport. I still get my paycheck, right?
Here's your paycheck, I owe ya. Plus a bonus.
So there were a few instances where I would notice the great flesh mountain slowly shifting its way toward the door, and I'd walk over and redirect her. Mostly with the excuse that she needed to learn how to do check-ins if she wanted to stick with this job for an extended period. She didn't exactly return to the task with enthusiasm, but she did comply without a rant about white people wanting her to do terrible things like working for a paycheck. Damn, dude. It's just dropping firebombs at this point. I don't think we even know what race Tumblrina is. I don't want to make any presumptions. Although I guess I made some presumptions making the thumbnail. I think it's a white lady with blue hair. A lot of times it's white ladies with blue hair that decide they need to take on social justice. They don't have enough problems going on in their own life. You gotta go out and find some. We need some injustices to fight. I'm just like Fat Batman.
I'm the hero that got them to church, but not the one in need right now.
Okay, sure. Whatever. We all find meaning in different ways. Anyway, was this progress? I don't think so, OP. Did she perhaps feel some shame about her disappearance yesterday? Again, I don't think so. Something was going on, and I would get to the bottom of it, but for the moment, I was simply enjoying the silence. Once snack time approached, I asked Tumblrina to lay out the plates as I grabbed the vegetables that were chopped yesterday. That's probably why she didn't waddle toward the kitchen at any point that morning. Tumblrina had a fifth sense that was essentially just a cookie detector.
Oh, these cookies! Put that cookie down! Now!
I mused as the snacks were laid out, and Tumblrina just sat there with her arms crossed. She didn't help you set the table or anything? Sounds like something that needs to be addressed, but I know OP's trying to not rock the boat today for whatever reason, as if it was actually going to make a difference, but I guess we only know that in hindsight. It could have worked, maybe. Anyway, snack time did pass smoothly. Tumblrina would fiddle with her phone from time to time, but otherwise continued to do her best impression of roadkill. I still didn't feel like I had an extra pair of hands, but at least I wasn't dealing with negative hands, as ReddX put it. Maybe Big Boss had given her the talking to that she needed. Did I truly care about the reason for these changes? Well, no, but I was curious. All that would need to wait, however. I chattered with the kids throughout snack time while Tumblrina sat there and brooded, wearing a face like she had somehow only just now smelled herself. Oh, that's a stinky face. Why your face so stinky, huh?
Uh-oh. Stinky.
That's funny, dude. I'm also super surprised the kids didn't ask her if she got some games on her phone. But, she's not really an approachable character either. Like I say, you gotta build some rapport with these kids. She's not interested in all that. Anyway, the time for snacks grew short, and we were headed towards a structured activity. Today, we were making things with clay. The materials were laid out, and the kids set to work as I pulled Tumblrina aside into the kitchen area. I wasted no time mincing words, and I asked, "What's the deal with you today? You haven't said a word to any of us here yet." Tumblrina started to get tears in the corners of her squinty pig eyes. "I can't tell you. You wouldn't care." An eyebrow raised as I assured her that I absolutely do care. Which, yes, I do. If only for the sake of getting those children the type of care that their parents are paying for, but I didn't say that last part out loud. Yes, I care, but only monetarily. Your emotional well-being means nothing to me. Which is true. I say it sarcastically, but it is true. The human mud pie started to leak down her cheeks as she began to wail. "Oh, my boyfriend broke up with me. I just don't know what to do without him. My entire life's been splintered to pieces, and I don't feel like myself anymore. I can't breathe without him." You can't breathe because you smoke 100 cigarettes a day.
We must have more. 500 cigarettes.
I think it's a good thing if your old life has been splintered to pieces. Now you can build yourself back into something new, something better. Maybe the boyfriend was holding her back in some way, but yeah, at the end of the day, realistically, we all know that this is Tumblrina's fault. She did all this to herself. Who could blame boyfriend for taking off, honestly? I nodded and patted Tumblrina on the ham hock. Breakups can be hard, but you shouldn't hang your happiness on anyone else. You decide how today is going to go for you. Have you been together long? Tumblrina lifted the neck of her shirt and blew her nose trumpet into it as I winced. Ew, snot tits. Is that a common occurrence? Is the front of her t-shirt just completely stiff? In a fight or something, you go to grab the front of her shirt and it just splinters and cuts your hand wide open? Tumblrina says, We spent the most magical month together. He's my one and only true forever. Jesus, this is pathetic. How old is Tumblrina? My guess early 20s, but you're talking like a kid in high school. Yeah, we dated for a month. It was so meaningful. I don't think that's true. OP says, part of me wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just said, oh, sounds like you were really invested. I thought we were going to be nice to her today or something. Tumblrina nodded. We were making plans to come and see each other once we had the money to do it. Oh, that's why she got a daycare job, huh? OP says, oh, the best laid plans of mice and elephant men. Yeah, it's a good thing the boyfriend got out of there before Tumblrina lennied her. You know what I mean? Let's be real, they were never going to see each other. Not with the way that girl smokes, and also eats, but mostly smokes. How much is that costing you a day? If you stop smoking, you could go visit them next month. You know that. Whatever. OP said maybe you guys could still visit each other as friends or something. She let out an earth-shaking, but I can't because he blocked me on Discord! Her flabby arms wrapped around me as the bacon grease from her eyes soaked into my shoulder. I don't use Discord, but I did know this meant that she was having a major league meltdown freakout over someone who was essentially an online stranger. Maybe this was an opportunity for self-improvement, though. See? That's the first thing that I jumped to. You can trust me when I say it's the furthest thing from Tumblrina's mind, however. OP says, then maybe it's just time to let go, you know? Spend some time working on yourself and show him what he's been missing. They say the best revenge is a life well lived, so let's try focusing on what currently is instead of what could have been. Wise words, big brain OP coming in again. I legitimately did my best to comfort her, but then one of the kids started wailing and we had to break out of our little huddle. I excused myself to find the kids who were fighting over the clay. It's all generic brown clay, but kids will always find something to fight over. Yeah, you have more generic brown clay than me. How is this fair? Just like Tumblrina, I guess. That's true, kids ain't got no problems, they want to make some problems. A very astute observation. I settled the kids down and I called for Tumblrina. She didn't answer. So, I gave her a few minutes to recompose herself before calling out for her again. Still no answer. The daycare center is not that big, so I walked back to the kitchen to check on her. To my abject horror, but not necessarily surprise, I rounded the corner only to see Tumblrina suckling the bottle of ranch dressing that we had used for snack earlier.
Oh my god, he's covered in f***ing ranch! Oh my goodness!
I'm just so hungry, I need a snack. My emotional meltdown took a lot out of me. I need to refuel.
It ain't got no gas in it.
That's basically just pure saturated fat. You realize that, right? That whale monster's not watching her macros. What the heck? I said as I smacked the bottle out of her hands and onto the floor. OP likes that move a lot. Smack! I won't smack you as a person, but what do you got in your hands? I smack it! Tumblrina immediately started the waterworks again. Don't judge me, you ableist! At least you have a relationship. When I'm upset, I eat! Ah! She wailed, her lips and tongue a disturbing creamy white, as she opened her mouth to the point that I'm pretty sure that it unhinged. It's so disgusting. It smells like ranch dressing and halitosis. The truth was that I didn't have a relationship because most people are incompatible with someone like me, but that wasn't the larger point here. So she presumed about your relationship? That's interesting. I also want to know what OP means by incompatible with someone like me, but maybe it's a sensitive topic. I don't want to press the issue. That's fine. I grabbed Tumblrina's big, fat, stupid head with both of my hands and spoke to her sharply. It doesn't matter how upset you are. We are setting an example for impressionable minds, so pull yourself together or get the hell out of here. I have enough kids in here to look after. I don't need another one. Yeah, you're not even getting paid for the fat one. All she does is cause mischief. Her parents dropped her off and they're never coming back to pick her up. Tumblrina immediately began to move toward the door, and I shouted, "First, you're going to clean up your little snack mess. Please," as I pointed to the white sludge that was now trying to creep underneath the fridge. I didn't give a shit if she got on all fours and licked it up, which she almost definitely would do. There were currently bigger fish to fry, and these kids needed some active play. So I gathered up all my little people and ushered them into the front yard. Yo, you're leaving Tumblrina alone inside there? Are you sure? Are you sure? She's getting smoke in there, so she's gonna burn the whole daycare down. This is...
I set the building on fire.
You can't trust her. Then again, I guess I'd trust her in there alone by herself than watching over human children. It's a real catch-22. Damn. OP says, the first thing I did on entering the yard was keep my eyes peeled for the BBW anime sticker van that had haunted me all day yesterday. After a moment, I did spot it, but I didn't immediately recognize it because all of the anime stickers had been covered up with what looked like sheets of paper. Did she glue paper all over her vehicle? Seems like a weird way to go. Maybe easier than pulling the decals off. OP says, I made up my mind to inspect it a little bit closer after Coworker arrived, if I could. At least it was one less thing to worry about, but I still did have one rather large eyesore to worry about, and that eyesore was currently in the kitchen, lapping up saturated fat from underneath the fridge. But she did seem slightly more bearable today. More bearable still didn't mean anywhere near actually bearable because, you know, it's a sliding scale, but I suppose that we were moving in the quote-unquote right direction. Yeah, I like her better when she's depressed. Can we just make her that way all the time? Sounds good to me. The kids broke off into their little groups, generally segregated by their chosen activity. Make sure the sandbox kids aren't throwing sand, prevent the jungle gym kids from going full gymnast, keep the water toy kids from drowning, and yeah, the job basically does itself. I'm telling you guys, it's a sweet gig, and these kids are insanely well behaved. If you just talk to them on their level and keep them fed. The day was going about as well as could be expected, but it wasn't long before Tumblrina would make a reappearance and throw everything right back into chaos. I mean, she probably did a really shitty job cleaning. Go back in there and make her spot check it like 5 times. You can't even clean yourself. I don't trust you to clean up ranch dressing, okay? But no, instead, the door of the daycare center swung open and out moseyed Big Bess, the fattest and meanest pig in the stable. Do pigs go in stables? I think they go in pens. She muttered, "I cleaned it," as she shuffled past and headed for the gate. I would let her go, but first, if you're going to smoke, do it down the street. I didn't get a response. She waddled to the van and hopped inside. She immediately lit up, and I shouted, "You need to do that at the end of the block! Away from the kids!" She glanced over at me, but continued to puff away. My brain said, "That's fine. We can escalate if that's what you want, bitch." So I walked up to her window and told her to move, or I would turn the hose on her. Tumblrina started in with more whining about the great oppression that was her life. "It's so hard to walk all the way down there. My feet hurt from cleaning. I just need a little break. Why can't you take the kids in the back for a while?" Nobody's saying you can't have a break. We're saying that you need to move away from the children with your secondhand smoke. Is that so difficult? So yeah, why not take all these kids into the back? OP says, because it makes no sense to ask 30 people to move when I can ask 1. Now do as I ask, or I will turn the hose on you. Do it. Do it! She drinks ranch dressing and then gets soaked with the hose. Oh, what a Tuesday, you know? Tumblrina did not budge. She rolled up the window and stuck her tongue out. I got a good look at the black and hairy creature that lived in her mouth. I don't think I'll ever forget the sight of it. Pink, like something freshly dead, but with a blackish gray fur covering it. I Googled it. It's not a horrible disease, but it is an indicator of terrible dental hygiene, which Shouldn't surprise anybody, I suppose. You're saying that her tongue was hairy and black?
That's nasty.
Yeah, that's not normal for sure. I'm deeply disturbed by this revelation. I'd Google it too, be like, Jesus, is that a symptom of something awful? Nope, that's just where the halitosis is coming from. The sight of her hairy tongue made me disengage. I backed away and said, do whatever you want. So she could sit there and hotbox herself in the stage 4 lung cancer for all I care. I wasn't happy about it, but the effort that it would take to win this fight was not worth the resources. Oh yeah, OP plays strategy games. Sometimes you gotta let those weak towns go. It's not worth defending. Fine, raise it to the ground. I don't give a fuck. OP says I did let it drop, but I promised myself that if I ever saw that window rolled down, then I would make good on my promise with the hose. Whether she's smoking or not, that's funny, dude. Well, she's smoking all the time from what it seems, so I guess that's not a huge leap in logic to take. We can make that presumption. I thought she was smoking. What? She's always smoking. OP says, part of me wondered how she survived that toxic environment, and then another part of me answered that, duh, it's because she's fucking toxic. Whatever. The kids and I did our stuff outside. Coworker arrived a bit early, and we prepped up the lunch for the kids. The entire time, Tumblrina sat in the van. There was no karaoke sing-along today. She just stared ahead like a zombie, while sucking down even more death sticks. There was just the slightest bit of mocking her, and I am actually being sincere about that. With her gone, Coworker and I fell back into our usual routine and spent some time with some of the coolest little souls on the planet. We passed lunch, a structured activity, and we were about to head back outside to wrap up the day. Hey, easy day for everybody. Coworker and OP didn't have a ham beast underfoot all day. Tumblrina got to sit out there and smoke half the paycheck that she didn't earn. It's wonderful. 3 more days of this, I think I could swing it. That's fine. Just keep her outside. As we were lining up the kids, I heard one of them shout, Miss Bluehair's on the slide, but I wanted to use it first. Coworker and I exchanged worried glances. We assumed that she had just gone home again. Both of us bolted toward the door, but it was too late. I heard a loud snap. It sounded eerily similar to the sound that a 400-pound land whale with the brain of a jellyfish might make if it were ever to drop its gigantic ass onto an $80 multicolored plastic slide. In fact, it sounded almost exactly like that. Yeah. I don't know how they recreated that sound so accurately. They had to have just done the thing, right?
Mary, Mother of God!
To this day, I have no idea what possessed Tumblrina to break one of the hottest playground commodities, but, break it she did. What is going through her head? What the fuck? You had to know that wasn't meant for you, right? The kids' reactions were sort of funny. Most of them were laughing because it is always funny to see fat people fall down, no matter the cost. However, there were other younglings that felt a deep connection to that slide. They are the ones that fell to the ground and wailed for mercy from the God that had surely forsaken them. It's like an accurate representation of a kid's view of things, you know? This is the end of the world. We'll never get another slide. It's gone forever. They don't know how things work. It's adorable. Coworker was closer to the door, and he went to console Tumblrina while I consoled the kids, while patting backs and saying, it's okay. We just have to be grateful that Miss Bluehair wasn't hurt. Internally, I rolled my eyes, but on the outside, my eyes were glued to the interaction between my 2 coworkers, or rather, 1 coworker, 1 ham beast. Ah, shit, OP stole the joke. She says, or to be more accurate, between my 1 coworker and the girl who shows up sometimes between cigarettes. Yeah, even then she doesn't do anything. She just stands there. Human disaster. Why couldn't she just go home? She didn't have a problem doing it on day 1. Whatever. He seemed to be talking to her low and stern, while she cried and made up excuses. Even without being close enough to hear, I could imagine the dialogue. Once you know someone well enough, you get pretty good at guessing. I'd known Coworker for nearly 5 years, and, well, I knew Tumblrina because, yeah, she's about as deep as a wet sidewalk. She really is just one-dimensional. First, Coworker would check that she was okay. That was confirmed as the ham monster wiped her eyes and nodded. Next, he'd asked who was going to replace the slide, and her shoulders shrugged, and that seemed somewhat like confirmation to me. And lastly, he'd probably ask what the actual hell was going on in her head. Not much. Her brain's up there just like...
Just hanging around.
I saw her toad lips moving, and for the life of me I couldn't guess at the actual reason. At that moment, she pointed directly at me. We made eye contact. My brow furrowed as I led the now consoled children outside. Yeah, you ain't gonna point at me like that. You ain't gonna blame me for shit. The kids broke away from me fairly quickly to do the things they enjoyed most, but I went to survey ground zero. Literally. Tumblrina was sitting amongst the broken plastic pieces. Coworker did not look impressed at all. Who's gonna replace that? I asked immediately, and Tumblrina whined, I already said I don't know! This capitalistic society makes me so depressed! It was turning into another rant, so I interrupted with the actual question I was keeping in my back pocket. Tumblrina, why the hell would you do something like this? Because I needed to save gas to get home, she stated flatly. Huh?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
That's a non sequitur if I've ever heard one. OP says, I have no idea what that was supposed to mean, but Coworker again got to her before I could. That doesn't make any sense at all, said Coworker. Tell her what you told me. What proceeded was the biggest combination of broken logic and mental gymnastics that I think I've ever been witness to. She described how she had gone to get lunch and had driven literally 2 cities over so she could go to a very specific location of a burger chain that is essentially the same no matter where the fuck you go. Instead of going home, she decided to drive back to work. Not to do any work, of course, just to continue existing in a place where work happens in hopes of gaining a steady paycheck via osmosis. Yeah, if I just stand here long enough, they have to give me money. She sat outside for another 90 minutes or so before realizing that her gas tank was almost empty. I remember those days too, you know, scrimping and saving. But you never let the gas tank run dry. Never, ever. So she decided that she would just spend some time outside. After getting some fresh air, she decided that the slide looked like a lot of fun. I don't know why it would be fun for an adult. It's waist height. But she was determined to relive some of her childhood wonders, I guess. And then, yeah, she broke it with her massive girth. She finished up her little story with, "But Miss Science told me that I could do it." I held up a finger. I most definitely did not say that. When the fart would I have told you that? You catch yourself around the kids. I like that a lot. I guess after a decade, you're probably pretty good at it. I'm, 6 to 8 years in? I still don't catch myself around my kids, but I'd rather that the kids learn the terrible words from me than from a daycare worker. That's what I'm saying. This is good in a professional capacity. At home, they tell me I said fuck, and I'm like, yeah, Daddy gets to say fuck. It's fine. Anyway, yeah, OP asked when she said that, and Tumblrina pouted and said, "Hey, you told me I could do whatever I want. I got bored and had to turn my car off." My mind flashed back to the last thing that I told her, and indeed, those had been my words. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. She certainly did. I sighed heavily into my hands and began to rub my temples. Coworker took the lead once more. You realize this is gonna come out of your paycheck, right? Tumblrina sputtered. But I have bills. The money's spent already. Creditors are calling me all the time. I can't even enjoy my phone games in peace. Put it on airplane mode. I'm not gonna tell her that. You don't deserve peace in your life. You've brought nothing but chaos to everybody else. Why do you think you're the one that deserves peace? Oh yes, truly a struggle for the ages, says OP. Coworker scoffed and said, perhaps you shouldn't participate so heavily in a capitalist system that was designed specifically for your destruction. Coworkers had 2 lines, and they've both been fucking bangers. Tumblrina had her own logic thrown back into her face, and her only option now was escape. She hefted herself to her feet and started to rant about how we were just a couple of racists and they couldn't own up to the fact that they'd been handed the world on a platter as she waddled towards the gate again. What a joke. What a bunch of flimsy logic. Nobody gets the world handed to them on a platter. I mean, I guess some people do. But even if you're the son of a billionaire, you still have to make decisions on how to sink or swim. Would you like to get addicted to Xannies? Or would you like to go to college? I think I already know the choice that Tumblrina would make. So even if you got a completely different start, everything was laid out before you, silver spoon right up your ass, you'd still fumble the bag. On top of that, the only person who's really brought up race at all is Tumblrina. And she brings it up a lot. A lot. So yeah, she waddled toward the gate. OP says, I don't owe this fucking cow my life story. I've struggled as much as anyone else. Amen. Coworker's also been through his trial, but neither of us dignified her with a response. I tailed her to the gate to make sure that she left, when suddenly she spun around on me and screamed, Stop following me! Before sprinting as fast as she could across the street to her van. Well, her sprint was about the pace of a brisk walk, so I continued to follow her. The van lurched to one side as she flung herself into it, and as I approached the vehicle, I could see what was stuck all over the top of those horrible stickers, and it was clearly fly paper. Little printed flies adorned the back, and the gooey, sticky substance that covered the sheet dripped into the windows and paneling. Yeah, that's not good. Her reasoning for this does exist, but it gives even the slide story a run for its money. She put the car into gear, and her tires screeched as she pulled off the curb far too quickly. As she left, she yelled out the window, This daycare's full of racists! Even the kids make fun of me, and they preach hate! If you don't want people to make fun of you, don't be so mockable. How about that? There was nobody even on the streets that she was yelling these words to. Yeah, she just wants you guys to know that she knows, or something. It was becoming clear that she was far more unhinged than anyone had previously suspected. As we checked kids out and things wound down for the day, I texted Big Boss. We regaled her with tales of Tumblrina's misdeeds and terrible conduct, but we were still told to let her finish out the week. Right, fuck, it's your money, you know? You can be as stupid with it as you want. We were also told to replace the slide and that we would be reimbursed for it. Big Boss didn't understand the situation because she hadn't seen it firsthand. Well, I would make it my mission to show her exactly what she was missing, but that was a story for another day. Yeah, Wednesday, apparently. I hope we stick to the plan a little bit better this time around. I guess OP wasn't so mean to Tumblrina. We didn't have, like, the soul-crushing insight into her existence that we got in the last episode. It's, like, somewhat more cordial. OP's trying to be a human, but yeah, Tumblrina's just, she's inhumane. Those two things aren't really compatible. I'm sad that she didn't get sprayed with the hose either, but breaking a child's slide and drinking ranch dressing all in the same day, like, what more can you truly ask for? Also, the flypaper on her van, what the fuck? I need more of this. I need more. There's so many mysteries left to be uncovered, but we'll have to do it at another time.
I just wanted you to know that you're my sister, and that you are just as good as a white mom.
You know, I hate that kind of remark. It sounds like a compliment, but really it's an insult.
Don't send your kids to daycare 4. Sleeping Beauty is almost functional. Yeah, we take those. Welcome back, user. It's not gay, it's science. So, during the third part's narration, ReddX asked what was meant when I said most men aren't compatible with someone like me. I guess that blurb was a bit of self-pity, working its way back into my thinking. I'm not sensitive about it, and I'm fine with sharing. I've been infertile since birth, and my personality can be abrasive to most people I meet. The fun doesn't stop there, though. Around 3 years ago, I was hit by a drunk driver and needed my right leg amputated below the knee. Jeez. I have a prosthesis, and most people can't tell, but I've avoided getting close to people because my biggest fear is the one that I share with all of humanity: rejection. Oh, that's terrible. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's compatible. It's on you whether or not you want to pursue that. Like, the missing a leg thing, some dudes are into that. They're called stump worshippers, okay? Look it up. Not that you want to be treated like just for that, but I don't know, if you find one of those weird dudes that you really connect with, I don't think I'm helping here, am I? Regarding the infertile, I mean, lots of child-free people. And abrasive, I mean, me too. I think your abrasiveness is enjoyable. It's a neat characteristic because I also share it. So there's somebody else out there that shares it. Come on. He probably also doesn't want kids. He's probably also into stumps. It's your one. You just haven't found him yet. Are you looking? Because probably if it's something you want, then you should look. But I do know rejection is a big thing. But if you go and do it enough, then you sort of develop scar tissue over it. It don't hurt as bad the 10,000th time, you know? I don't know. It's a completely male perspective, honestly. Probably there are some women watching the video that could leave some encouragement for OP in the comments. Please and thank you. This isn't going to turn into a diary entry because I've accepted things as they are. No, it's as you perceive them to be. Like, you are smart and perceptive, OP, but I don't think you got it 100% on lock, okay? None of us can know what the future holds. Like I've said before, we all have our struggles, and this is my personal cross to bear. Neither of these things really come up in the story, but since you asked, there it is. Well, I'm glad I asked, honestly. Probably made myself look like an ass trying to, you know, soothe the situation. But it adds some depth, you know? I do want to know some strange things about you. I can tell you some strange things about me. I've already told thousands of strangers on the internet. It's fine. Anyways, we will move into the story now. Now that I've got plenty of pitying glances headed my way, it's time for a topic shift. I sort of understand that, but it's not a pitying glance, okay? It's encouraging. It's you can do it. It's nudging the baby bird out of the nest. You're smart enough. You're ready to fly. You can handle some rejection. Although I do suspect that's much harder for women than men. They're just not as practiced, you know. Anyway, with all that said, we will move into part 4 of this tale. There is no cast list or recap of past events. Just try to keep up. Yeah, keep up with that one-legged lady. I'm sorry, I'm not I'm not going to bring it up anymore. Wednesday was reassuring for me. I woke up and thought about the fact that after today, we'd be over halfway to never seeing Tumblrina again. Yes, precious hump day. That simple fact was enough to keep a smile on my face all the way to work. I entered my morning routine and began to hatch a plan for how I could demonstrate for my boss the level of derangement that was being allowed here this week. Yeah, I think OP would have sacked her after day 1, right? Really, if Big Boss had any brains, you'd, like, defer to the boots on the ground anyway. Like, yeah, okay, you say she sucks, she probably does. You know what goes on there. I'll stick another ad on Craigslist or wherever the hell you found this freak. Phone video seemed like it would be the best bet in demonstrating Tumblrina's derangement. The question here wasn't whether or not I could get her to spiral out of control. The question was, would she spiral hard enough to not notice that her actions were being recorded for posterity? I don't know, man. She seems pretty self-absorbed. She's not looking at anything else that's going on. Tumblrina, yeah, OP says as much. Tumblrina didn't seem like the most self-aware person. It'd probably be fine, and if it wasn't, what's the worst that could happen? She hits me with her extremely padded fat fist. It's like a pillow. I was pulled from my thoughts by a knock on the door. Speak of the devil. Literally. I swung the door open with a wry grin on my face and greeted the hippo lady, who was dressed in fresh, oversized, but still cigarette-burned, Speedy Gonzales t-shirt. Oh, see, she changes her clothes on the third day. That's normal and fine. She seemed to be in a good mood as she returned my hello and bounced her way into the daycare. Well, you seem like you're in a much better mood than yesterday, I started cautiously.
I took my boyfriend back last night. We stayed up talking until morning,
she practically squealed. At this point, I'm wondering how and why, and is he blind or just stupid, but I didn't say any of that, of course. No reason to goad her to start spinning out of control this early on. I'd need to try and wait on that until backup had finally arrived. Yeah, the best laid plans of mice and men, eh? I don't think backup's gonna make it. He's not made it any time so far. The shenanigans start before lunch every single day. At least the past 2 days. There's a pattern here.
I'm beginning to see a pattern here that I'm not so sure if I like.
OP says, yeah, I'm glad you patched things up. Did you get any sleep, though? This job can be a lot harder when your brain is frazzled from a lack of sleep, I said.
OP, you should know by now that I'm a total workhorse. I could go for a week without sleep. If I start to get drowsy, I just have a little smoke and I'm back to work just as hard as before,
she proclaimed. You really do see the world differently than other people, don't you? A brief exhalation of air from my nose almost turned into a legitimate laugh. She wasn't a workhorse. She ate like a horse. She was the size of a horse, but work? I didn't think that was even in her vocabulary. She does eat like a horse wouldn't eat 40 boxes of cookies. Even a horse fucking knows better.
I've got to stop eating so much. No, I've got to stop eating. Period.
You ever feed a horse like way too many apples? They stop after a certain point. Like, I like a sweet taste, but this is cloying now. I'm gonna go enjoy some hay. Tumblrina don't do that. OP continues, I will concede that she does work just as hard as before after having a cigarette. Unfortunately, 0 times anything is still 0. I composed myself and nodded. You know what you're capable of. That is the most political answer I think I've ever heard. Our little heart-to-heart didn't last for long because the parents started to arrive for drop-off. What happened next shocked me to my core. Tumblrina stepped up and signed the kid in. And she did it properly. She had somehow absorbed her training. I mean, she didn't train on Monday because she's eating cookies, right? And then I think for a lot of Tuesdays she stood around, and yeah, she did absorb it. This mud pie has some sort of learning capability. OP says, granted, most people would be able to do this on day 1, but for her to take the initiative, I was fucking flabbergasted. This was not the blue-haired pig dog that I had grown to loathe. Were we dealing with some sort of pod people situation? Somebody cut in some theremin music.
What is that thing? It's hideous and weird. Don't be a hater, dear. It's a theremin.
Ooh, spooky pod people. If only it were that easy, you know. I'd give her the pod people in a second. I don't care what changes are made. She'll be better afterwards. She can't get any worse. The morning check-ins did go by remarkably smooth. After inspecting her work, I let her continue flying solo. This was an amazing development that I couldn't explain. Getting back with her supposed boyfriend had caused all of this. Yeah, she can't breathe without her boyfriend, but she's a staunch feminist who don't need no man. And don't you forget it.
Men, we don't know what we did.
Her head is so full of inconsistency, she can't even keep track of them. Tumblrina is so morbidly fascinating to me. Tumblrina was acting normal even while running on no sleep. I mean, it's not later. You wait till it gets later in the day. She's not going to make it till 2 p.m. You kidding? Staying up all night? Did you sleep at any point? Like a little nap? OP says, I started to believe that she'd actually turned over a new leaf. Maybe she did want this job. Maybe things would turn out all right. Had I misjudged her? She might have had a bad couple of days. I worked with the kids and crafted a boatload of excuses for her past behavior. I was ready to move forward amicably if Tumblrina was able to do so. Unfortunately, the good times never last. Yeah, it seems they go by faster than the bad times, too. It's kind of fucked up. My ears perked up as voices slowly started to raise at the desk that we use for check-ins. You are not allowed to speak to me that way. What gives you the right? Uh-oh. It was one of the moms who we'll call Terminus. What an ominous name for a mother. I've learned that casually speaking to Terminus only leads to problems. My strategy is to keep things completely professional, so she couldn't find anything to dig her nails into. Terminus was imposing, a large black woman with dyed red hair. Essentially, if you inverted all color on Tumblrina, then you would have Terminus. Different personalities inside, thankfully. Then again, maybe not. What do you mean, like, dig her nails into? She's a Karen? And also, I think this is confirmation that Tumblrina is indeed white, since somebody in the comments was asking. Now, these two color-inverted Titan twins were on a direct collision course. Did I dare to put myself in the middle? There wasn't really any choice. I excused myself from the kids and headed to the would-be battleground.
I'm an ally. We both have our struggles out here in the streets. I just wanted you to know that you're my sister and that you are just as good as a white mom.
You know, I hate that kind of remark. It sounds like a compliment, but really it's an insult.
Gosh, thanks so much. What the fuck? Terminus was about a millisecond away from terminating Tumblrina. I could see it on her face, but I got there before any hands were thrown and asked Terminus to step outside with me while Tumblrina completed the check-in. Step outside? Are you guys gonna fight right now? I started by apologizing profusely, and then I asked for her side of the story. I foreshadowed this before, but yeah, they were talking about motherhood when Tumblrina decided to drag race into the conversation. Just for no reason. I apologized even more and tried to make more excuses for Tumblrina, which I really hated to do because there is truly no excuse for her or her behavior. After some time, Terminus was calmed down enough to ask for the number of Big Boss. Oh boy. Heads are going to roll. They don't call her Terminus for no reason. Nobody calls her that to her face. I happily gave it to her and suggested that she file her complaint in great detail as soon as possible. She said she would, and left without further incident. I only hoped that something would come of it. Sometimes the enemy of your enemy can be your friend. Yeah, who said that? Sun Tzu? Is that the art of war? Another one that really applies to all these stories is never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Just let Tumblrina spin out of control. It's fine. We get the video footage. So with one crisis averted, I walked in to face down another one. And I thought this would be a nice morning for once. But the moment I opened the door, I heard Petey shriek, I want to play Legos! Barbies are for girls! Oh, God. I saw Tumblrina chasing him around, screaming that gender is a social construct! That kid has no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You realize that? This is the only way that she could ever recruit anybody to her side. You gotta get them before their prefrontal cortex hardens up. Get them in deep enough that they can't leave without some deep regret. Anywho, OP does what needs to be done and says she leapt into action. My first worry was that she might fall on the boy and pancake him. But I was also livid that she would try and dictate how other people spend their time. Yeah, especially a child. What? What? Also, the pancake thing. Was that Moby Vic pancaked once upon a time? I think it was a gerbil or a hamster. But crushing a literal child, yeah. You gotta do some time now, Tumblrina. OP says, she hadn't changed at all. Gasp. No, really? People don't change overnight? That's so weird. There was a thin veneer of civility that was clearly only set up as a defense against the slide that she broke yesterday. That meant that there was guilt there, but that still didn't humanize her to me. It only made me berate myself for ever buying into her ruse. I stormed over and snatched the Barbie from Tumblrina's hand. No slapping in front of the kids. There you go. But OP's got some killer hand-eye coordination. I growled as she spun to face me. He said he doesn't want to play. And she began wailing,
"If I don't take these steps to open his closed little mind up, then he'll grow up to be an evil cis-white male."
I boiled. Part of me was ashamed that I didn't catch that display on camera, but my main concern was just getting Petey out of that situation. As we stood, the kids interrupted our standoff and managed to diffuse a bit of tension.
"Petey's not a sissy. Miss Bluehair's so mean. Is it time for snack now?"
Always love interjections from the children. But I do want to say that I'm proud of you for not whipping out the camera. Like a lot of TikTok parents, and that's their first instinct. Oh, my child's gonna get hurt. Better film it.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on camera. You on candid camera now.
No, you need to go and help the child. That is our job as people that are larger than the child. OP says, I drilled holes into Tumblrina's face for a few seconds more, trying to telepathically transmit that I would end her existence before I let her negatively affect these kids. You can offer to play Barbies with a little boy. I won't have a meltdown about that. But trying to force anyone into a situation that they don't feel comfortable in isn't going to fly here. I turned back to the kids and said, it's snack time soon, but first, let's enjoy a little activity. Tumblrina interrupted, saying,
I brought the snack today. It's in my van.
Great. I'm going to feed the kids cigarettes, I suppose.
Young boys aren't supposed to smoke with cigarettes. It can make your lungs sick.
Yeah, I got a whole carton. Everybody gets 3, except I get 6, because obviously they're mine. Tumblrina, we're going to have a snack soon, but first, we are doing an activity, I repeated myself. The mud creature mumbled something about
being ungrateful
and waddled out the door. Maybe she was getting snacks, maybe she was going home. I preferred the latter at this point. She was certainly more involved, but I wasn't sure that that was a good thing after all. I preferred her uncomfortable and silent. Seems that we're past that point now. So true. And we can't ever go back. This relationship develops day by day whether you want it to or not. The only thing left to do is fling yourself out of the fucking airlock. I'm not doing this anymore. I sat all the kids down and had them draw pictures of their houses, parents, pets, toys, whatever else. I complimented their works of art and made sure that nobody was fighting over crayons. Normally I'd sit and doodle something with them, but today I was on edge. I paced like a prison guard. I peeked out the windows at the flypaper-covered van that belonged to our resident lard beast like I was on a military watch. She had a hand cart that I assumed she had taken out of the back of the van, and she was loading cardboard boxes onto it while puffing away on a cigarette. As the smoke drifted high toward the almost afternoon sun, I couldn't help but wonder what the hell she was up to, but I would find out soon enough. What sort of snack needs a hand cart? How much does she assume these children eat? It can't possibly be like vegetables or something like that, right? Hey, I brought all kids get a head of lettuce. They're children, not turtles, Tumblrina. The kids were grabbing more paper and continuing their masterpieces when Tumblrina slammed the door open. It was loud. Some of the kids began to cry. That scared me so bad. You ruined my art, Miss Bluehair. I was gonna give that to Mom! These are the things that matter the most when you're a child. Now there's one line out of place. It's not even worth showing it to her. It'll never get hung up on the refrigerator now. She'll love it. Just give it to her anyways. Anyway, Tumblrina paid little attention to the chaos that she had just caused and wheeled her load of goodies into the kitchen area. Not able to contain my curiosity any longer, I followed once I settled the kids back down. The boxes read, Fruit Roll-Up, and from the count underneath the name, it seemed like each box contained enough high fructose sugar sheets to keep those kids snacking for days. Almost 200 fruit roll-ups in each box, and she had at least 4 or 5 boxes. What the hell did we want with 1,000 fruit roll-ups? Do they still make those? This is like a blast from the past. I used to love fruit roll-ups when I was a kid. They got little pre-cut things in there and you can pull it out and play with it before it gets all hairy and then you eat it.
My friends and my fruit roll-ups. We're having fun the weekends and wow, we love our fruit roll-ups.
The hair doesn't make it better. The hair is just because you couldn't not play with it. It's a food and a toy all in one. Where did she even get all of these fruit roll-ups? I knew better than to ask outright, so I began with, "Oh, it's so nice of you to share your snacks with the kids." Tumblrina nodded, completely self-satisfied.
These are packed with so much more energy than those dinky animal crackers or vegetables. The kids will like these a lot better.
They probably will. That doesn't mean that they should eat 1,000 of them, okay? Like if there's 30 kids in the class, they're each eating 30 fruit roll-ups. I don't think that's good. Everybody's going home with diabetes. They probably will like them. My eyebrow raised as I asked the million-dollar question, but where did you get them all from?
Oh, don't worry. They were free. I got them from behind the grocery store,
she proudly announced. Hey, dumpster diving, that's nice, but you probably don't feed people dumpster food. Like, you have to make sure they acknowledge that it's dumpster food before you feed it to them. That's just good manners. OP says, the wheels of my mind turned and clicked into place, and I whispered, are you trying to feed these kids expired fruit roll-ups from the dumpster? She laughed.
I'd never do that. These were by the shipping dock.
I shook my head. You stole 1,000 fruit roll-ups from an incoming shipment? Are you out of your mind? You need to bring them back. I'm sure they have cameras. You could get in a lot of trouble. You're bringing that trouble right to my doorstep.
You must understand, OP. Sometimes to make a big heist, you gotta take a small hit.
Couple years in jail for my 1,000 fruit roll-ups, no big deal. Like, I guess she tried to do something nice, but in the most horrible way possible. OP says, I was shocked, of course, but a flicker in the back of my mind told me that I should try and get that video footage. Like, from the grocery store, I'm pretty sure they're gonna hand it to the cops shortly. I needed to start recording audio, so I fiddled with my phone as she made her retort.
Those capitalist scum won't miss it. Nobody even saw me take it. I parked my car down the street, and I took from the rich and gave to the poor. I'm like Robin Hood if you really think about it. I know I made the kids sad yesterday. I just wanted to make it up to them, and could you stop playing with your phone? I'm making a point here.
I didn't catch the admission of guilt. Ah, fiddlesticks. So I apologized and asked her to continue. She rambled on about social inequity and her right to pillage whatever she wanted in order to right the wrongs that some dead people committed centuries ago. Yeah, not really how any of that works. And then the Walmart's gonna shut down, everybody's gonna lose their job, they're gonna go, why do we have to live in a food desert? It's not economically viable to open a shop there, you see. Your pillaging only makes it worse. Anyway, it was stupid and asinine, and it wasn't the biting confession that I hoped to extract. I tried to lead the horse back to water, saying something like, "So you stole these 5 boxes from the grocery store in order to fight oppression?" And she answered,
You haven't been listening at all. This is liberation. This is my moment of greatest triumph. I might go back tomorrow and...
"Miss Science!" one of the kids shrieked, and I rushed back to my duty. Is she going to go back to my... What a mad lad.
Absolute mad lad!
She's gonna get arrested for sure, you know? Thanks for the 1,000 fruit roll-ups, but I need 1,000 more! Crayons were inside of noses now, and I admonished myself for leaving the kids to go hog hunting. None of the audio I had was even usable. I plucked the now much greener crayon from a nostril and told the kids to get ready for snack time. Yeah, kids do some weird stuff. You gotta watch them at all times. My 2-year-old, I don't trust him for a second. But I do suspect it's difficult to watch that many kids, especially when you have a giant overgrown kid who's thieving from the local grocery store. Okay, so how about snack time? Tumblrina wandered out with a box, and I told her to put it back in her vehicle. We were not having the kids eat the evidence of her theft. She refused and asked the kids
if they'd rather have goldfish crackers, bleh, or fruit roll-ups, yay!
And the vote was nearly unanimous for fruit roll-ups. I sunk my head into my hands. She turned my own people against me with the power of sugar. I nodded in defeat and waved my hands as about 30 hands were filled with ill-gotten goods. While Tumblrina doled out the haul, I deleted the audio file that I had taken. If anyone asked me about this, I knew nothing about where these things came from. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, that's some good old CYA. Cover your ass! Speaking of sticking, the fruit roll-ups were melted to hell and back. The plastic packaging no longer held sugar sheets. Instead, it oozed a red sludge. The kids didn't seem to care much. Neither did Tumblrina. They suckled the plastic and made grand exaltations about just how amazing this food product was. I cringed internally. I guess they were all getting their daily dose of microplastics today. It's fine. There's some already in there. What's a bit more? I'll admit to you right now, it was not the best situation to allow, but I was thrown off kilter by a new and somewhat improved Tumblrina, and the army of fickle children that she now seemed to have at her command. I sat there stunned as I lost control of the only thing that truly mattered to me. There was also the nose crayon from earlier. Maybe I just wasn't cut out to be in charge. I quickly realized that I was spiraling and that I'd need to push back against those ugly feelings of unworthiness. Hell yeah, you caught yourself, OP. That is a really big step, you know? Took me decades to master that one. While I might not be infallible, I'm certainly more fit to guide these children than the thieving racist do-nothing that menaces children with Barbie dolls. That's right, we menace people with Mr. Potato Heads like true people of culture. I stood up and made my announcement. That snack was a lot of sugar for little bodies, wasn't it? Okay, now we need to get outside and burn off some of this energy, right? The kids agreed and stood to line up in front of the door. Tumblrina saw her coup being derailed and offered the kids some more fruit roll-ups if they wanted to stay indoors. There was brief mention of not needing to conform to societal beauty standards, and the kids looked amongst each other, quite puzzled about what those words were supposed to mean. Petey spoke up first with an impish smile on his face. I don't want to stay indoors and eat too much sugar because I don't want to look like you. Damn, dude. Oh, Petey. The line of children erupted with laughter, and I tried to shush them to no avail. Tumblrina didn't look angry. She looked sad and broken. The ham beast had failed to win more than 10 minutes of the kids' respect with her great candy heist. Part of me felt bad, especially after her go-getter attitude this morning. She was clearly trying to connect, but the other part of me remembered the 2 days of high-tension screaming and arguments and broken or stolen things at my place of employment. The sanctity of the one place that I valued more than anywhere else had been violated, and even a million sheets of flavored corn syrup weren't about to make me forget it. I didn't want her to be my friend, or my coworker. She'd blown that possibility out the window like so many cigarettes. Damn, that's some good writing right there. But I did want to maintain civility and good manners for the sake of the kids. Peter, I spoke sternly, that's not a nice thing to say to Miss Bluehair when she's trying to do something nice for us. You need to tell her that you're sorry for what you said. Petey stared at his feed and muttered his apology. Tumblrina accepted, but still had a look of deep sadness on her face. I nodded and let the kids outside, telling Tumblrina to get the remainder of those boxes back into her van. I didn't wait for confirmation. The kids set out to do their thing, but as it turned out, a lot of talk on the playground today was about Tumblrina. That snack was so nasty. She's still not very nice. She smells like my dad when he comes home from the bar. Yes, that's called cigarettes. You're getting a little secondhand from his clothes. You need to stay away from Daddy when he smells like that, okay? My kids know. I told the kids that they needed to act nicer about 20 times over the next hour or so. Tumblrina trudged to her van with the boxes and loaded them inside. The giggling renewed itself as soon as she appeared. Kids really can be so mean sometimes. Yeah, once you're out of their good graces, it's really hard to get back in, too. The blue-haired beast just sat in her van, catatonic. Not dissimilar to yesterday, only this time we were the root cause of her heartache. The day had started so well. I frowned as I considered my options. Part of me still felt pity, and then that pity dried up instantly as I saw her light a cigarette with the window down. My frown deepened, and my thoughts grew dark. Parked in the same spot as yesterday. I told her I would blast her with the hose. You got like an angel and a devil on your shoulder arguing it out right now. It would be mean to kick her while she's down. Do it! Spray her right in the face!
Nice job. You got my shirt wet.
I'm sort of with the devil on this one, sorry. My eyes shifted to the green rubber snake with the black plastic sprayer nozzle. It was dripping water already, almost begging me to follow through on my threat. See, the universe wants you to do this. The truth was, I didn't have the heart to do it. She was already broken today, and honestly broken long before we crossed paths. Jesus, ain't that the truth? But I wanted to believe that she could choose something better. Blasting her with water wouldn't help her along, so instead I took a short video on my phone. I panned from the kids to the smoke streaming from the flypaper van. It likely wasn't damning evidence as far as Big Boss was concerned, but it would be enough to shut the entire daycare down if it ended up in the wrong hands, like in the hands of some choice government officials. Was I willing to firebomb my entire career and set all of my little wards adrift to fend for themselves in the world? Probably not. But it's always good to have options. This is what we call insurance. I just wanted to have an ace in my pocket, and I'd decide what to do with it a bit later. OP's really out here playing a 4D chess game, you know? Once I took my video, I shuffled all the kids into the backyard away from the secondhand poison. Tumblrina stayed gone until it was almost time to head back inside, and Coworker showed up. I told him to get the kids settled in for lunch while I went to fetch our flesh mountain from her combustion-driven hovel. As I approached, there was no smoke. I wondered if that meant she stopped breathing. I walked up to the driver's side window and peered in on the monstrosity. She was either dead or asleep. I looked closer, and I could see her chest rising and falling. Darn it, asleep. I don't know if it's just me, but this entire paragraph tickles me so. I reached in and I gave her a shake. Nap time isn't until after lunch. You got a job to do. Get up! Get up! She did stir a bit, but it was gonna take more than a gentle wake-up call. Dude, get the hose. This time for real. And OP says, The hose called out to me once again, but I resisted its siren song. Instead, I reached in and plucked the keys from the ignition. "If you want these back, come inside and help with lunch," I stated as I headed back inside. Is this theft, manhandling the car keys? She's not gonna call the cops. Then you just flip Uno reverse and be like, she's got 1,000 stolen fruit roll-ups in her trunk. I expected Tumblrina to shout out after me, but she didn't. She was fast asleep. I was sure that she'd wake up as the afternoon sun baked and bubbled her behemoth behind, but I was sorely wrong about that. I caught Coworker up on Tumblrina's new and semi-helpful change of heart. We ran through nap and more structured activities. For 3 or 4 hours, we were back to business as usual once again. Coworker really got the short end of the stick with his schedule. Ain't that the truth, dude? He probably doesn't even think she's that bad. Like, okay, she's absent a lot, but if she's as terrible as you say, why is that a problem? Eventually, it was time to head back outside for the final playtime before the parents started to arrive and pick up their kids. Coworker pointed to the van with his chin and said, "Someone should go check on her. 1, 2, 3, not it!" I rolled my eyes and begged him to go instead of me because, again, I had dealt with her all morning. There was a back and forth where we joked about the coroner needing to bring a crane and cut the roof off the van to get her out before they buried her in a piano box. They need her buried 12 feet deep since she's about 6 feet wide. We laughed and made sure that the kids weren't paying attention to our mean girl moment. I'm sure they did. That's why they're mean to her too. They know you guys don't like her. That's how kids be. Also, as far as cutting the roof off the van and all that, don't bother. Just bury the whole van. It can't cost that much extra, okay? She's a behemoth woman. I was about to give in and go pitch the van keys through the window when suddenly, "Where are my fucking keys?" Oh, seems like Sleeping Beauty is finally awake. The door was wrenched open as she repeated herself, wondering where her keys could be. I just love the phrasing there. As she stepped out, it looked like our mud monster had liquefied. She was sopping wet from head to toe. Her stringy hair hung damp and greasy as she stomped back toward the daycare. I was briefly shocked that a person so disheveled could somehow look even more disheveled than before. But I guess a scalding nap in a convection oven on wheels can have that effect on people. Yeah, she was catching up on some of that good sleep. But you can't sleep for too long when you're getting all sweaty like this. She's gonna have heat stroke or something. She hadn't even reached the gate when I pitched the keys back toward her vehicle. The action reminded me of a certain potato head. I yelled back, "Don't say bad words around the kids. Just go home and dry yourself off." Tumblrina let out an incoherent screech. I presume it's the Legbeard version of a neckbeard's ree. I stood strong against the auditory onslaught and told her that she had missed the entire workday. There was a brief, almost apology where she excused herself by reminding me that she'd been awake all night, and then she switched right back into righteous indignation and talked about how she didn't want to take part in the evils of capitalism anyway. Yeah, you don't get to excuse yourself. I was awake all night. Oh, you made poor choices with your life and somehow I have to bear the repercussions of it? Fuck you. How about? I looked to Coworker, expecting a snarky retort on her statement about capitalism, but instead, he just shrugged at her and waved her away with his hand. "Then leave, and don't come back." Short, succinct, not the burning comeback that I hoped to see, but it was effective. With one last enraged shriek, she grabbed her keys from the street, got in the van, and screeched her tires away from the curb. Well, good riddance to bad rubbish, as I say. Coworker and I had a laugh about how she looked like I had decided to turn the hose on her after all. And we both agreed that she probably wouldn't be coming back tomorrow. Surely she has some shame somewhere amongst all that prodigious girth. At least enough to know when to stay gone for good, right? We were horribly wrong about that, of course. Coworker and I reached out to Big Boss again. We knew we were finally making headway when Big Boss admitted Maybe conflict resolution isn't in the cards here. Well, no shit. Day 3, that's how long it took ya? I guess Big Boss got other things going on, I don't know. Anyway, truth be told, Tumblrina wasn't even gonna make it until Friday, but it wouldn't be Big Boss or even myself that pulled the trigger. It was local law enforcement. I knew it, dude. She said she's gonna go back to the store. I knew it. She was smart enough to park her vehicle down the street, but you think they're not gonna check traffic cams and find out which car you got into, where you went? Big Brother's always watching, okay? It's much easier to just live an honest life. Sure, you gotta play capitalism some of the time, but the truth is, it can be a pretty fun game, especially if you're winning. Why don't you try to start winning? Anyway, OP says that is a story for another day. And so we conclude. I guess 1 or 2 more parts to go. Honestly, I was hoping for a lot more out of Tumblrina. Like 40-part Chris Trucker type of saga, but that's not always how it goes. Sometimes all you get is 3-4 parts, and you gotta be good with it. I do hope that OP will continue to write about, I don't know, anything at all. Just tell me about your day. The writing is really interesting. It's really likable, really enjoyable. I hope to see you around the channel for a long time to come, you know? One officer calmly recited the charges.
Ma'am, charges include conspiracy, obstruction, identity theft, extortion, and fraud.
Holy God, what?
You've been hit by a smooth
Criminal.
Don't send your kids to Daycare 5, Robin Hood. I'm not gonna be one of those OPs that never finishes their saga, she said, as she started a saga that flowed really organically up until the last part. Yeah, it tends to happen, I guess. I'm here half a year later, however, to make good on my word and provide the ending of Tumblrina's involvement in my life. Half a year is a long time, and part of me wants to apologize, but the other part of me says, I don't know, bro, shit happens, lol. Yeah, I'm not gonna, try and chase anybody down. You have to finish your saga. The shit comes when it comes, or it doesn't. That's fine. We're trying to roll with the punches. That's also why I like sagas that are pre-completed, but whatever. You've had plenty of time to read the posts, says OP, or watch the videos, says ReddX. So we'll jump back in, and I believe in you to just pick up on the context. So I say once more, try to keep up. That's right, Sonic says, gotta go fast.
I'm fast. I'm so fast.
It was Thursday morning, and I usually sleep like a log, but I had spent the entire night tossing and turning, anxiety gnawing at my sanity like Tumblrina through a package of stale and ill-gotten cookies. It was indeed a grim portend of things to come. I love that turn of phrase. I knew that today, somehow, some way, the fruit roll-up heist would come back to bite us all. It wasn't a question of if, but rather when. Was it going to manifest as pre-diabetes or as a brush with Johnny Law? I mean, I sort of did tell you outright in part 4. And I'm pretty sure Tumblrina was already far beyond pre-diabetes. Just savagery for no reason at all. I mean, actually pretty good reason, come to think of it. It's just been a while since we dealt with Tumblrina. You gotta stoke up my hatred again. Anyway, of course, Coworker had been filled in on yesterday's sugar-laden dumpster dive disaster and told him all about the weird, vague sense of dread that had settled on me since last night. We both agreed that something needed to be done before the situation spiraled completely out of control. And I mean, yeah, it was already sort of mid-spiral. And doing something, well, that had been our position from the start. Yeah, Big Boss kind of had your hands tied. I do recall that much. We had no cards to play, though, so what exactly could we do? Well, stay fuckled in and brace for impact. That was fine. We'd probably survive the impact. Yeah, probably. As the morning began, things remained eerily quiet, usually relaxing, but for some reason, I felt a little uneasy. I arrived early, sipping nervously on my coffee while keeping a watchful eye on the parking lot. It was empty. No Astrovan, no cigarette smoke wafting through the air. Maybe, just maybe, she really had gotten the message. My mood slowly began to creep toward foolishly optimistic. 10 minutes later, just as I had gathered myself and decided that I was ready for whatever the day threw at me, the door burst open with a theatrical flourish, and there was Tumblrina in all her unwashed, blue-haired glory, clutching her victory coffee from the local gas station. And of course she wore the same stained Speedy Gonzales t-shirt from yesterday, now garnished with new cigarette burns and mustard stains, and she practically beamed with misplaced pride.
Good morning, OP!
She sang out, voice dripping with smugness that I knew meant trouble.
How did the kids sleep after my little gift yesterday? I bet they dreamt of sugary goodness.
OP says, actually, I wanted to talk to you about that, I said, forcing calmness into my voice. Do you realize that those fruit roll-ups were stolen property? It doesn't even seem like you realize that what you did is wrong. Her face dropped instantly.
Stolen? Wrong? Oh, no. You poor little brainwashed idiot! That's capitalist propaganda! I liberated those fruit roll-ups!
Yes, liberated them into your bloodstream. Great job. I sighed and pinched the bridge of my nose. Stealing is stealing, Tumblrina. You can't just take things. Yeah, isn't that what you teach the kids? There are consequences. You are living in a nicotine-fueled fantasy land, okay? One day the man, TM, is gonna slap you in the mouth. Really fucking hard. Facts. We saw so many people recently. Vitaly, Johnny Somali, and today Tumblrina, I guess, if all has been foretold properly. She scoffed, waving me off dismissively.
I fight against the oppressive chains of capitalism every day. You're just too indoctrinated by society's programming to even see it.
Okay, sure. Whatever, I barked, deciding to focus instead on the incoming children. I mean, yeah, arguing with an idiot, it's never gonna work out.
Thank you so much for wasting my motherfucking time.
Really, I did want to scream at her about how society only functions because of the social contract. Scream that it was her and people like her who were single-handedly destroying what was a high-trust society once upon a time. Is it that difficult, to be honest? To work for the things that you want? It's a damn shame, that's what I'll say. I go on enough about it in my own brain. I don't need to turn this post into the same. No, please, go off. I'm all about this, dude. I can come up with a few reasons that we're not a high-trust society anymore. You and I could talk about this at length. We could write an entire video essay if you were interested. Get at me in the Discord. Thanks so much. Discord.gg/ReddX. Everybody's invited. Open invite, especially if you bring your Gubbins pillow. Did you buy your Gubbins pillow yet? You have to. You're contractually obligated now. That one was for OP, not for general audience. Unless you guys want to buy a Gubbins pillow. Whatever, I'll continue on. So yes, the kids began arriving, trickling in with sleepy smiles and their favorite toys in hand. PD bounded in, clutching his favorite dinosaur figurine, immediately showing it off to me proudly. He calls it a Parasaurolophus, which I'm sure is quite similar to its actual name. Parasaurolophus. So yeah, cool. Impressive. Tumblrina hovered awkwardly, offering stiff greetings and even stiffer smiles to the parents dropping off their children. For once, she seemed somewhat subdued, probably sensing my unspoken hostility. She knew that she was on thin ice, even if speaking that fact out loud would crack the thin veneer and douse her with an icy spray of reality. Nice imagery. She couldn't admit it to me, but I could see it in her face. Guilt. Or maybe she just had to poop real bad.
Uh-oh!
And Morning playtime rolled around, and I set up a simple arts and crafts activity involving construction paper and glitter glue. Have I told you guys how much I hate glitter yet? The glue version is really only marginally better.
I told you we needed more glitter.
I think it's even worse. Now the glitter is also, like, purposefully sticky. It's not great. The kids always get excited for the sparkles, though, so I submit to their collective wills. Tumblrina quickly took a very hands-off approach, opting instead to sit in the corner and scroll through her phone, occasionally muttering about capitalist media lies, loud enough for me to overhear, but soft enough for the kids to ignore. Yeah, they don't know what capitalism is. They don't care. Miss Science, look at my butterfly! Petey shouted enthusiastically, holding up a piece of paper drowning in blue glitter. Yeah, that's amazing, Petey, I praised, making a mental note to buy more cleaning supplies. Glitter, as we all know, is the herpes of craft supplies. The carpet was already a battlefield, sparkly landmines of glittery goop everywhere. My hope was fading rapidly, but my smile remained plastered, because working at a daycare meant perfecting the fine art of controlled panic. Yeah, that's parenthood in general. That's sort of life in general, I guess. It's a deep statement there. Miss Science, look, my dragon has 3 heads, shouted another child, proudly holding aloft what appeared to be a green blob with googly eyes drowning in an ocean of gold glitter. That's so creative, kiddo. Keep up the good work, I praised, knowing full well that the dragon in question would soon shed half of its golden scales all over my clothing. But the kids just look so happy. How are you supposed to break their little hearts? Well, the secret is never letting them discover glitter in the first place. Classes these days are much easier on my sanity. Yeah, I can't imagine trying to clean that crap up. You're finding it for a week. There's like a billion things we can do besides breaking out the glitter. I'm glad Big Boss or whoever finally sees that now. Or did you pick the glitter? Did you do this to yourself? Whatever, it's fine. Back then, in that moment, with glitter glue effectively coating every surface, including the inside of my soul, I decided that it was time to shift gears. The sensory bins were usually a good follow-up activity. Low mess, easy cleanup, at least compared to the apocalypse of sparkly goo which now haunted my dreams. Okay, my little artists, let's clean up our masterpieces and head over to the sensory station, I chirped with forced cheerfulness, silently mourning the carpet beneath my feet. It would never be unsparkly in quite the same way again. Yeah, generally carpets aren't supposed to sparkle. Well, maybe that's what you're going for, a nice 70s vibe or something, who knows? The children cheered excitedly, their attention spans relieved to move on to something else. Within minutes, everyone was happily occupied with the plastic tubs filled with rice. Still messy, indeed, but yeah, vacuumable. They were pouring and scooping and giggling, and yeah, these little moments always remind me of why I love this job so much, even if it often involved insane coworkers and questionable fruit snacks. And just to be perfectly clear, I don't include Coworker in the insane coworkers part. Speaking of Coworker, at some point in that morning, after Tumblrina had arrived, I had shot a text to Coworker, and I do remember the exchange verbatim. Me, we were wrong. She came back. The Lord hath returned to us our gelatinous fog machine. Coworker, I think he just hates me because I'm gay, was his only reply. OP, then I'm gonna need you to start parking the beef bus in Tuna Town. Coworker, instead of come on. OP, fuck you. We have fun. Yeah, in your way. One of those, like, razzing relationships. It can be fun if you have the mental energy for it. Anyway, back in the real world, I began glancing around, and I noticed that Tumblrina had withdrawn back into the corner of doom, huddled over her phone again. Did she leave? I think she's still there. She was periodically letting out pained moans, loud enough for everyone to hear, but carefully avoiding direct eye contact with me. Yeah, classic manipulation tactic. Yeah, you gotta open up the conversation. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, no. Still, I felt obligated, both by professionalism and morbid curiosity, to approach her. I must truly be a masochist. Yeah, I resemble that statement as well. Tumblrina, I'd like to speak with you, I said, beckoning her into the kitchen area. She reluctantly peeled herself away from her digital soapbox, hobbling dramatically after me, clutching her stomach with exaggerated agony. Every step was punctuated with a groan. Oh!
What is it now, OP?
She snapped irritably, eyes darting between me and the fridge. I kept my tone neutral. Is this stomach thing going to be a real issue today? Because, honestly, if you need to go home and rest, then you should probably—
I ate too many fruit roll-ups, okay?
She barked defensively.
It's not even your business!
Have you not gone into a diabetic coma yet? That's amazing. OP says, I mean, it literally is my business. If you vom on the children, I deadpanned. How many exactly is too many? I'm genuinely curious. She looked away sheepishly, suddenly very interested in the cracks in the ceiling.
Maybe like a couple boxes.
What?
Wow, that's a lot of boxes.
That's not even physically possible. Again, I'm astonished. This needs to be studied. My eyes widened and my jaw fell open. A couple of boxes? As in entire boxes of fruit roll-ups. She nodded sullenly.
They were just sitting there, free for the taking. And besides, my boyfriend helped.
Yeah, great. Return of the phantom boyfriend. And he's not sick? I questioned. She looked at me as though I were insane.
Of course not. He's strong, unlike some of us.
Oh my god. Maybe Tumblrina's the victim in all this. Maybe the boyfriend has ground down her sense of self-worth. Maybe he doesn't actually exist at all. I don't know what to think here. Well, I sighed, if you feel worse, please feel free to head home. Seriously, I won't even tell the big boss. It'll be our secret. It wouldn't have been our little secret, of course. I was going to use that slack line to hang her out to dry, but my duplicitous plot was foiled by Tumblrina's own ineptitude and, lack of social graces. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. Her piggy mind was whirring away behind those tiny eyes. She was either working really hard to unpack what I had just said, or she was coming up with a way of misinterpreting my kindness. For once in her life, she actually succeeded. Tumblrina.
Oh no, OP, I'm not going anywhere. You need me here. One day you'll realize that. Maybe today.
I need this like I need a kick in the ass, you know? This has been absolutely just an awful experience through and through. Why can't we say that? Why can't we just say that part out loud? I guess because it's Big Boss's call to make. She waddled triumphantly away, leaving me utterly dumbfounded. I stared at the spot where she stood, my mouth opening and closing silently, trying to form words that could adequately express my extreme disbelief. She truly was just an immovable stump of a human being. She would shift from victim to liberator to best buddy to worst pal, like a chameleon, changing its colors. I wondered if she actually even thought about it, or if it was really just that ingrained into her DNA. That's an interesting proposition, too. Honestly, I think this is nurture over nature. Like, this is the way that she's been able to get by and survive easiest in her life. Like, everybody optimizes their own strategy. It just happens that her strategy is a lot more pathetic than most people's. Anyway, Coworker chose that moment to stroll in, significantly earlier than usual. He wants to watch the car crash, I'm sure.
Aw, yeah! My favorite seat!
He was casually sipping a coffee and greeting the kids. He paused, observing my slack-jawed state. Oh, nice. Your morning's already off to a good start, huh? I recounted the recent conversation, which left him doubled over with laughter. 2 whole boxes? She's literally weaponizing diabetes. It's not funny, I groaned, although I was smiling too. It's disturbing, but at least she's more quiet today. True, he conceded, glancing at the human beanbag, which had been occupying the corner basically all day. Let's just, ride this one out. And ride it out we did. At least for like a whole 5 minutes, before snack time once again devolved us into complete chaos. Miss Science, the fishies are swimming on the floor, Petey squealed excitedly. Confused, I looked over to find that Tumblrina had somehow spilled the entire container of goldfish crackers all over the carpet. She was now gingerly picking them up one by one and placing them back into the tub. Yum, hairy goldfish. Glitter-covered goldfish.
They're still good,
she announced defensively, catching my horrified stare.
5-second rule applies here, comrades.
Comrades? Interesting. Coworker just stared, visibly dying inside. You realize they're toddlers, right? Not like tiny raccoons? I sighed, defeated. Holy Tumblrina, could you just throw them away? Please. She did, grumbly bittering about
wasting perfectly good food.
The irony of her concern for wastefulness was, of course, entirely lost upon her. Following the snack time forced cleanup, we headed toward the kitchen for lunch. The kids, blissfully unaware of the lingering goldfish catastrophe, were stoked. Today's menu, dino nuggies, juice boxes, and little cups of rainbow yogurt. Honestly, the holy trinity of toddler fine dining, as I've learned. They do love that shit. Why do you need the rainbow yogurt? They're like, I love Red Dye 40. It's delicious. I was plating up the food, mentally reminding myself that yes, glitter is not a food group, and no, I should not cry in front of the children. Oh man, you having a rough one today, huh, OP? Maybe it's a joke, I don't know. I'm subtly concerned. Coworker handled drinks, doing his best barista impression with a tray of lukewarm apple juice. That's when I noticed Tumblrina fishing through her tote bag like a raccoon at a campsite, and from its depths, she triumphantly produced a crumpled gas station bag and slapped it onto the counter like a reversed birthday gift.
I brought lunch,
she declared, as if she had hunted and gathered it herself. Honestly, whatever's in there, she probably did steal it.
Now the stolen bag. It's true. Theft equals flavor.
She then pulled out a family-sized bag of off-brand Flamin' Hot cheese curls, and expired Lunchables, and a dented can of room-temperature Monster. Original flavor. The green one. Of course. She is eating like a Twitch streamer during finals week, Coworker muttered. She ripped open the Lunchables and began stacking the wet meat circles like little wet pink poker chips, muttering about how
meat is a capitalist construct,
while simultaneously eating all of it. No cheese, no crackers, just sweaty meat discs, raw-dogged, straight from the tray. That shit's wild.
Damn, little lady. You sure can't put it away.
Are those even safe to eat? I asked, stunned.
Expiration dates are a scam,
she said confidently, before biting into a cheese curl like it owed her money.
It's all just big pharma, trying to make us sick with preservatives.
You are sick, I muttered under my breath. While Petey quietly asked if her tongue was bleeding. It was probably just red dust from the curls. Yeah, either that or she's gone into a food rage and chewed her own tongue off. Either way, she's beyond my help. Let's get the hell out of here. The smell of the meat, the neon dust, the monster fumes, it all combined into a single olfactory hate crime. My appetite died quietly in the corner. The kids happily chatted and munched. Coworker backed away slowly like she was a bear that he just made eye contact with. And then, just as I was gonna go full health code violation and ask her to please not eat fermenting pork sheets near the toddlers, there came a knock at the door that caught everyone's attention. I walked over, hesitantly, opening the door to 2 stern-looking police officers, and my heart dropped.
Are you the one in charge here?
Asked one officer authoritatively. Yeah, I'm Miss Science. What's happening?
We have a warrant for the arrest of an employee. Are you familiar with a blue-haired female approximately?
He consulted a notebook.
Very large.
Behind me, I heard the sound of a gas station plastic bag hitting the floor, followed by an overly theatrical gasp.
Oh, this is madness!
Tumblrina shrieked, clutching her monster can like it was a Bible.
I've done nothing wrong!
Ma'am, the officer said calmly, is that your vehicle out front? The van? Covered in flypaper?
Yeah, so what?
Tumblrina demanded indignantly.
Are you oppressing me because of my artistic expression? Is it illegal to express yourself through mixed media? Is that what we've come to? Artistic censorship?
The police officer ignored her theatrics.
We have footage of that vehicle involved in the liquor store robbery last week over in Birch County.
The entire room fell silent. Damn. What? She's out there robbing liquor stores? I thought it was just for roll-ups. This has escalated quickly, hasn't it? The entire room fell silent. Only sound was a toddler whispering loudly, "What's liquor?" Yeah, no time to address that now, little buddy. There was a mind-blowing revelation for everyone involved, of course, including Tumblrina from the looks of things. Tumblrina's face blanched. She was genuinely confused.
Liquor store, I've never...
Liquor? I've never met her. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Sorry, now's not the time. The second officer stepped in firmly.
Surveillance video clearly shows that van serving as the getaway vehicle, so, ma'am, you're under arrest.
What? No!
She flailed dramatically as they approached, listing her standard complaints: capitalist oppression, white supremacy, silencing her truth. As they cuffed her, one officer calmly recited the charges.
Ma'am, charges include conspiracy, obstruction, identity theft, extortion, and fraud.
Holy God, what?
You've been hit by a smooth
Criminal.
There's such a deep story here that I don't... Was her real name actually even Tumblrina? That's when she decided to go full Tumblrina, of course.
No! I will not be arrested by agents of a corrupt colonialist empire! I am a sovereign citizen of my own body and my own lived truth!
I love this. She stomped a foot.
Do you know how many hate crimes are committed against fat people every day? This is a violation of my...
The second officer reached for her arm. Big mistake. She flailed, like full-on helicopter flailing. And one of the kids let out a cheer. Another one yelled, "She's doing Kung Fu!"
Everybody was Kung Fu fighting!
She's resisting,
one officer muttered.
I'm expressing,
she barked back.
This is an expressive flail.
This is a fantastic climax. God damn it.
Do not interpret my resistance as aggression. This is defensive twerking.
Yeah, clapping them cheeks, making like sonic waves, knocking police officers over. FBI SWAT van flipped onto its side. Yeah, she really can clap them cheeks. Not that anybody truly would want to, because the wind from the back shots, my goodness. Sorry. And then she tried to waddle backwards out of the door. Yeah, that's probably not the best way to run away from the cops. You need to turn and run full speed, which for you, maybe backwards is faster, I don't know. She didn't even make it halfway before tripping over her own tote bag and landing with a seismic thud that shook the glitter out of the carpet. Oh, helpful. She groaned, still clutching the monster like it held the power to restore her rights. At this point, both cops were visibly over it. Ma'am, please stop yelling about capitalism and get up! Can I get footage of this? I'd love to see the body cam footage. Eventually, they got the cuffs on her. She screamed about fat phobia the whole time, called them pigs, ironic, and shouted that she'd be suing everyone here for emotional violence.
I hope you're ready to lose everything when my boyfriend uploads the footage,
she shrieked. What footage? What the fuck are you talking about? Is she requisitioning her own body cam footage? I ask again, can I have it? OP says, oh good, I said, unable to resist, because the police are definitely afraid of a guy who's scared to buy his own Lunchables. Not the sickest burn, but we'll take it. Actually, it's kind of good. The taller officer gave me a look, but didn't say anything, just gently guided the monster woman through the door as she wailed about fascism and food desserts. The children waved like it was a field trip bus leaving. One of them shouted, "Goodbye, Miss Bluehair! Goodbye!" like she was heading off to summer camp. When the reality of the situation finally sunk in, my jaw hit the floor so hard, I'm surprised it didn't shatter. Actually, I do know exactly what you mean. Like, this whole crazy thing happens, and only after it's done do you have, like, a second to recoup and be like, holy crap, that all just happened. Identity theft, extortion, fraud, who exactly had we been harboring? Yeah, and around children nonetheless. I think it's good you didn't drop the name of the daycare. That's a solid choice. All of a sudden, like a bolt of lightning, it made sense why she had fly-papered her van to cover up any identifying lewd anime stickers. Was she involved in the robbery? Just a getaway driver? Maybe her friend just borrowed her van in order to do it. I don't know, dude. Even if she wasn't involved in the robbery, she's got a lot of other stuff going on. Identity theft, fraud, extortion. She's got a laundry list, okay? The van was just the thing that did her in. She's not a good person. I refuse to feel bad for her. Coworker whispered loudly, "Did we just work alongside a criminal mastermind?" I think mastermind is a really strong word, I murmured numbly. As they escorted her out, Tumblrina spun toward me, eyes wild.
You'll see! You need me here. This place will collapse without me.
Yes, not even a week and she's already an absolute pillar. I smiled gently, unable to resist once more, and said, actually, I think we'll manage. Good luck with capitalism behind bars. Something tells me that you'll thrive in a cigarette and booty-based economy. The children just continued to wave, entirely unfazed. Petey shrugged, wisely saying,
I didn't really like her stacks anyway.
You got that right, Petey. The price for interacting with this person had been far too high, mentally, physically, spiritually. So as the police cruiser disappeared down the street, I just stood there, like a dollar store Greek statue, glitter in my hair, PTSD in my soul. The children had returned to their usual shrieking, juice box huffing chaos, but I was frozen in place. My brain couldn't quite reconcile that, yes, Tumblrina had just been arrested, at work, for being the plus-sized getaway driver in a liquor store robbery. And I was expected to go back to supervising finger painting, like that didn't just happen. Like I hadn't been 1 degree of separation from felony charges via a woman who once tried to argue that cinnamon rolls were a gendered food. I mean, I do enjoy a good cinnamon roll, but you gotta admit they're kind of bitch-made. Coworker eventually emerged from the kitchen with that smug little half grin he gets when he knows that I'm spiraling. Well, he said like it was nothing. At least you didn't poop on the carpet. Yeah, I feel like that was next, I murmured, still staring out the window. You don't just hit peak Tumblrina and then stop climbing. He nodded sagely, like we were war generals reflecting on the last battle. A true Legbeard doesn't fall. She simply plateaus at chaos. Yeah, that might be kind of deep, sort of. We didn't talk much after that. Didn't need to. We just kind of coexisted in the kind of silence that can only form after watching a woman with a Lunchables addiction get taken away in handcuffs. The rest of the day passed uneventfully, though I did find a mashed up fruit roll-up under the sensory bin, hardened like ancient amber, entombing a single goldfish cracker inside. I decided to keep it. I don't know why. Maybe someday it'll end up in a museum exhibit about the decline of Western society. Here lies the reason this woman snapped. That's wonderful. It's like that scene from Jurassic Park. Till later, after the last kid left and the lights were turned off, I sat alone with my thoughts. It would have been poetic if I stared into the abyss or something, but in reality, I stared into a half-empty container of disinfectant wipes and thought to myself, God, I hope no one new gets hired next week. Then I remember the first Mr. Potato Head that I ever threw. That stupid plastic head soaring through the air like a Patriot missile, launched out of pure maternal rage. I think that was the moment that everything shifted. The point of no return. The day I became the Potato Head Thrower. The one who had flung a toy at a moving vehicle out of a righteous childcare-born fury. And maybe, just maybe, I would need to do it again. Later, as parents came to pick up their children, I braced for awkward conversations explaining why the daycare had briefly become a scene from Law & Order. Surprisingly, most parents merely shrugged it off. The kids couldn't repeat the whole story, aside from his blue hair going to jail, and I claimed that it was an old Warren and nothing to worry about, which, yeah, it wasn't really. One mother smiled sympathetically. We've all been there. Well, maybe not exactly there, but you know. Yeah, I knew. Sometimes daycare meant dealing with the unexpected, the bizarre, the surreal, but we had survived. We'd endured a Legbeard hurricane, a glitter glue apocalypse, and somehow still managed to smile at the end of the day. The beast was out of my hair permanently, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. I'm not sure what happened to her behind bars. I didn't care enough to keep track, although I did hear through the grapevine that she got shivved for trying to tell the Aryan sisterhood about their white privilege. I'm not sure if that's a joke or not either. It was funny, dude. As I locked up presently, Coworker smirked, nudging me gently. Ready for tomorrow? I laughed, tired but genuine. If we survive Tumblrina, I think we can handle anything. And we could. The daycare kept chugging along. Big Boss didn't end up relying on me more, as she should have, and so we met with plenty of other strange coworkers along the way that stayed for far too long, but I guess those are tales for another time. I hope that you won't judge me too harshly for dragging ass on this final entry. And thank you to ReddX for all that he does with this amazing platform. It is a hell of a platform, I'll tell you that. I'm so grateful to everybody who shows up here every single day. Even if you just drop by for a minute, I appreciate you. And this, definitely worth waiting 6 months for. I busted a gut. This is just as hilarious as the first entry. I'm still hooked. I hope that you'll find the time to write more, OP, honestly.
Gubbin's brain still vibrating from story. That not daycare, that battlefield, that not coworker, that glitch in meat fabric. Gubbins no longer trusts Speedy Gonzalez t-shirt. Gubbins.
Glitch in meat fabric. What the hell? Yeah, wild story, and I'm glad that Tumblrina got what was coming to her. Not the shiv. I mean, that's always sort of tragic, isn't it? She sort of seemed like just a dumb person who got wrapped up in something that she wasn't ready to handle. But I don't know, maybe she'll get her whole shit readjusted and find herself, at least, you know, fingers crossed, at least. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Check out the Gubbins Pillow on the Fourth Wall, Patreon, YouTube memberships if you'd like to support us month to month. I appreciate you so very much. This entire thing has been a dream come true for me, and I just want to remind you of that. You are part of the reason that I can do this whole thing, and that's fucking crazy. It's amazing. Thank you. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.
何バカ何バカ何バカ何バカ何バカ